Thank you for joining us, mate. I don't know if you remember actually meeting us in Telford.
Did I?
Do you not remember?
Next to the punch machine, Misfits Boxing.
He only remembers.
At Misfits Boxing,
Yeah,
you boys were there as well.
Yeah, we
yeah.
met you there.
So we walked over, and
Yeah.
your boy was smashing it. Fucking, he had about 20 goes on bounce, and we were kind of watching.
Who was I with? Oh, Danny. No, I was with a soft lad. Well, I call him soft lad. But he's obviously not a soft lad.
Well, he was sending some. He was
Yeah, there
sending
were
some bangs.
there were
in.
a few of your boys there, yeah.
Yeah. I was with my son as well. I took my son and his mate.
Yeah, I saw you, son.
He loves it.
Obviously, the situation that went off in Telford, I was pretty surprised to see you in there showing your face.
Yeah, what with the
Do you get any trouble when you show your face down there?
a few of the security were giving it, the big bearded mullahs, but they didn't do anything. And essentially, I don't limit where I go. I go everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I go everywhere. What was I? I was just two, three lads, and then my son and his mates. I go everywhere because I don't, and my son sees. Surprisingly, I've been Wembley with him. I've been O2. I've just gone with me and him. I get a good reception. You'd be surprised. So. No one's really said, even in the fact of, I've spoken a lot about Islam over the years. I don't think I've ever had a moment. I've had lots of Muslims see me when I'm with my kids. Yeah, I've seen them look. I've never seen them. They've never disrespected the fact I was with my children. They've always nodded. Mm-hmm. So, so that surprised me. So in the sense, because I've seen Muslims who would totally disagree with me. I've seen when I've been walking around with the children, they've never ever disrespected me in front of the kids. Mm-hmm. In that sense, so and I go everywhere, and my son wants to go, and I don't want to have to say you can't. We're not going there. I say to where was I yesterday? I went somewhere with my son yesterday. I said when we walk in here, because I was suspicious of someone in there. I said you just need to stand back if something happens, and he shouldn't. My son's seen a lot. He's only 13. Mm. He's seen me getting attacked multiple times. Again, not by Muslims, so.
Do you find it tough, that? Like, really digging into that? Is it...
I find it tough in the sense, so... I've never thought... There was an incident, it was on YouTube. It was the start of COVID. I get in my car, I'm in Hitchin, and with my son and his friend, yeah? And I'm sitting in my car, and I'm driving out the car park, and I see some lads walking along with their hoods up. And there's a video of this. And I see the lad go up to an old man and woman and start coughing in their face. And I had to check, and I thought, is he actually doing that? So I stopped and I looked out. I goes, what the fuck are you doing? And then they looked at me. There's three black lads. He was from, where was he from? He was from Gambia. Yeah. He's looked at me going, Tommy Robinson, we heard you were in town. And then he's come up to me, and I'm standing at my side of the car. I said, what are you playing at? Coughing in an old woman's face. They gave her a black eye in the end, yeah? So I'm standing at the car, and one of them keeps putting his hand in. I'm watching his hand. And they goes, we'd chiff you up with this, with that. My son sat there, and then one of them hits me. And as he hits me, then I get back in the car, and I go to drive, and then I just think, fuck it. And I jump out of the car, but really, I jump out of the car, and I'm fighting with them. And then they run off. The big one runs off straight away. He runs off, and then I'm running around the car, and then in the end, the other two fuck off. And then I get back in the car, and I look at my son and his mate, thinking, and then my son videoed it all, the car starts rolling. So I get out and I'm trying to stop the car rolling. I didn't think about it because he's young, and then I thought about his mate. There's been a few instances like that. I went straight from there. A few weeks after that, Black Lives Matter hit off. Our car was firebombed. We left and went. There was nowhere you could go. It was the start of COVID, and everywhere was on lockdown. But Croatia was open, so I went to the airport to see where we could fly to. We went to Croatia. There was no hotels. Couldn't even get hotels. Remember at the start. Went to Croatia. I was there 2 weeks until Spain opened their borders. Went to Spain, and then I was in Marbella, and I was sat having food with my family. There was 4 kids, me and 4 kids, and then there's about 6 Asian lads sitting over here. Yeah, and there was I think when I looked him up, he was actually Greek. There were six lads sitting here, and I saw them looking at me a lot. So I went in the toilet. I went in twice. I went in the toilet. I thought, if any of them got a problem, they can follow me in the toilet. I've come back out, sat down. They've carried on. So I thought I'll go to the toilet again, make it very obvious. If you've got a problem, then come into the toilet. I've gone and sat back down in the toilet. And then as they've gone to leave, 5 of them totally fine. Yeah, 5 of them walked across. One of them come across and said, I'll stick fucking holes in you. You racist, you this. I just sat there. I said, I'm with my children. And as I said, I'm with my children. Then he said, I'm from the streets. As he got held back by a waiter. And I just sat there, and I found out the next day. Yeah? So as this happened, my son then, from this, he started having panic attacks. He wouldn't walk down the street with me, because the next day after that, we were sat somewhere else, and 4 lads, one of the lads that was with him, was with this other kid, come in, and they were giving me, you white piece of shit. And my son just burst out crying. And this was I then rang up and found that they all worked. These lads all worked for a gangster who's an Arab out in Marbella. I was so raging. I found out everything about the lads. I found out where he parked his car in London, because he's not from the streets and he's not a gangster. Because if he had a problem, he could have followed me in the toilet, but he didn't. He chose his moment in front of 5 little kids to give it the big one. And then, and then from that, my son was he had panic attacks. He didn't want to go home. He wouldn't. He said he was scared to go home. We got a protection dog before we went back to England. The only way he'd go back was if we bought a specially trained protection dog that can be by his side so he feels comfortable. So I've watched what's happened. I've watched my children have all of that. And the fact that I know that at the time of that, what was he, 11, 10, and he's worried and scared. So it's not good, and I feel terrible for it. And he's had a lot to see and put up with or grow up, stuff that kids shouldn't even have to think about. And he's had so many things to see, yeah. And so's my daughters, but with my son then, it was a bad time. And he come back from there and he started boxing. And let me show you his before and after, yeah. He's a different child now. He's confident, he's fit, he's physically fit, he can fight, which is unfortunately...
Can you see his demeanour, his mentality sort of evolved with...
Everything evolved.
Good.
His confidence and everything. And they said even the boxing club, he goes to a good boxing club, they said after 6 months, he's a different kid. I said, I know, yeah, and his confidence. And then from that, at the time of Black Lives Matter, I went on a rant about BLM as an organisation, and it was the worst thing I'd done because it caused murders for my kids and that. And it caused them a lot of fear. And I guess that, yeah. But then they've seen now, as we go through the years, I go everywhere, as I said, and they see I don't get bad response off black people, but the emotions were so high at the time of George Floyd. And my son was watching, it's OFB, you know OFB? Little rap gang in London, a famous rap gang from Tottenham. They put price on me. It was all they were doing all these rap videos, and they were all their sharing my profile with a wanted picture. And he was watching all those as rappers at the time at 10, 11 years old. All the kids were into that, and so he was terrified, thinking these are killers and that. So he's probably had to grow up a lot and suffer emotional problems from.
You know, you're going to investigate these specific subjects. You mentioned Black Lives Matter there. Are we okay to talk about this movie a little bit in this?
Yeah.
How are you making the decision to go after, sort of investigate and go down that rabbit hole of that? Is it have you got people working for you? Is it your investigation? How does that start to begin with?
So I'll just follow a story. So Telford, I've done Telford, which was a 4-part series so far, called The Rape of Britain. And in Telford, they arrested the police in their investigation into the grooming. Remember, before they'd even mentioned grooming, the English Defence League had gone to Telford and marched over grooming before anyone knew what grooming was. We'd been highlighting it for years. And it was only in 2015, I'd led the English Defence League, I'd done my activism, and then I was sent to jail. I come out of jail, and then Ezra Levant from Rebel Media offered me a job and asked me to make a video. I said, I haven't got, and when I come out of jail, I was trying to get back into building. And I said, I ain't got time to make a video. And then I made one video. He sent me cameras. I made one video. And then he said, what do I need to pay you for you to work full time and do videos? And then that was my start of realising that I need to let the country see what I see, let them know what I know, make them aware of the problems that I know are in every town and city that are being hidden and covered up and the media won't report and people won't talk about. So I've done the documentary on Telford. And the reason for Telford was Telford police identified 200 men as perpetrators who had been raping kids, and they prosecuted 11. And it's like, well, what about the rest? So we all think, because you see all the grooming gang headlines everywhere, they just take a couple of them. So they should, and Telford has a 1.7% Muslim population, small. You can walk through the town. I remember when I first went up there, everyone was like, you need to be careful. They're killers up there. There's these gangs. And they are killers because there's 5 dead girls in that town, yeah? But you need to be careful. I was like, I'm from Luton. We've got 50% Muslim, yeah? We've got 40 mosques. You've probably got a handful. And there's none here. And when I looked at it, 1.7%, that's 3,500 Muslims. When you take away the women, take away the under 16s and the over 70s, there's only like 1,000. And the police identified 200 in that age bracket. So you're telling me that 20% of the men in this town have been raping kids, raping non-Muslim children. 20%. It's insane. So those statistics, and then the other thing is, when I spoke to the girls, so I spent 12 to 18 months, which is draining in itself, and I never thought about it because I gained the trust of victims. I spent time with them. I got to know them. They spoke. I felt I was in a position where they'd tell me things they won't tell other people. And I spent time where basically got all their stories. We'd sit here like this. We'd video 6 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours. I'd drive them round, and then we'd go back through the footage. And we'd done a chart and a table. And every time one girl mentioned the people, we do a list of names. We got over 230 names. We did, yeah, of these men. Now, when they were mentioned 3 times by 3 separate girls who do not know each other, you got victim A and victim C, both saying they were groomed and raped and trafficked by this man. She says the same, yeah? They don't know each other. So at that point, because if one girl was saying I was raped by this person, for me to go and highlight them and expose them, she could be lying. We don't know what's gone on with her, yeah? So when it was corroborated 3 times, then for me, the film was as much about, and the idea of it was that you've got away with raping kids. Yeah, you walk around the town. They all own businesses. They all own restaurants in Telford. People are they don't realise or know, but they're sitting in their businesses giving them money. And these men are animals. So then I went to the businesses and asked them questions. There's men in there who had murdered. One of them had murdered a girl. She's dead, 13 years old. And he's standing there. And when I went in the restaurant, I said, are any of you lot aware that he killed a 13-year-old girl? Are any of you lot aware? And then I asked him, because the girl said on camera that another girl who was friends with the girl he murdered, that he dragged her up into the woods. And this is the sick stuff. The other thing is, it's not about sexual gratification. They're destroying these girls. He took her up, and after he'd come in her mouth and made her give him a blowjob, he then pissed all over her. So these sorts of stories, I said, here he is, just serving everyone in an Indian restaurant in Telford. No one knows. So I wanted to make it. I kept saying, if you've been raping kids, then you're probably going to end up on my series. And I went through the series, went episode 1, 2. We found a leading police officer who had been cooperating and working with the gangs. Yeah, he'd been taking money of them. We had 2 witnesses who saw him taking money in with a gang full of Pakistani gangsters in the back of a restaurant. We tracked him down. He left the police force 2 years before his pension, so he didn't leave. They must have known what he was doing. We tracked him down, found him, we questioned him. But all of this work we've done, not one single British journalist, like it's an expose after expose of how they operate, who operates. We went through and looked at everything, the reasons for it. No British journalists or no media reported on any of it.
Why do you think that is?
Well, GB News is supposedly the free speech platform. I know for a fact and can prove for a fact that their presenters who would like to interview me and talk to me are not allowed to. They're not allowed to speak to me. My name's not allowed to be mentioned. Why do I think that is? Because it's controlled. We pretend that there's free speech, we pretend, but the real issues that people want to hear, the real issues that I highlight, we just brush around it, which is what they're all still doing.
Are you okay to make a little summary of this new film? For some context there with that?
Yeah. So context, where are we? We're in Wakefield.
Castleford.
Castleford, which is very near to Huddersfield, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
There was a news story in Huddersfield where a young Syrian boy had a bottle of water poured over him in the playground. The news story blew up on the world's media. When I say the world's media, I sat and watched it and I thought it's on Chinese news, it's on Israeli news, it's on CNN, it's in Australia, it's everywhere, yeah? And the reason being that it was a Syrian refugee, and the public were told that he was racially bullied. The public he had a broken arm at the time with the bottle of water over him. The public were told he broke his arm in a similar racist attack. It was all about race. As it blew up, parents started contacting me from the school and saying, actually, that's not true. He's this, he's done this, all these different things. Now, I actually currently have an injunction against me, and where I'm not allowed to show people the film that I created. So I created a film. I created the film which shows everything that's gone on. This news story blew up worldwide. I knew from what the parents had told me was the truth. So I then lawyers started prosecuting me and taking me to court, saying that I'd lied. And they offered me a deal to plead guilty, to give them £50,000 and the problem would go away, which I said no. So I'm not paying you for telling the truth. Now, as I was watching, I was thinking, how come no teachers, how come no one is telling the truth here? Yeah? So I went, and the school was closed down. Like this was spoke about at the G8 summit. Theresa May was spoke about, and the Syrian boy was invited to Parliament by Sajid Javid. He was pictured in Parliament. He was lauded as this victim, yeah, which was the total opposite to what I was being told. And my job as a journalist is to interview people. The British public had already donated £160,000 in 48 hours to this kid. I made a video saying you're being lied to. Okay, you need to know the truth before you start donating all your money, and that is in the public interest. The judge ruled that I can't defend public interest. He said it wasn't in the public's interest, and I had to prove it as a matter of truth. Now, when I went and wore the hidden camera, you've seen it, yeah?
Secret Steve.
So I go to Huddersfield. They're taking me to court. So I go and knock at the first teacher's house. I say, look, mate, they're taking me to court, and he basically confirms everything I said was true, but then also confirms that people have been paid, yeah, and that no one's allowed to talk about the boy in question. So then I walk out and think, well, okay, again, how do I know what's going on here? How I need to let you know, yeah. So then I ring a private investigator who has secret hidden cameras, and I wear a hidden camera, and I go and knock on the doors. And you've seen the Asian teacher comes out and he says, I took the money. And I'm thinking, oh, you're on camera, bro. Yeah. I said, who paid you? And then when he says who's paid you, which we investigate and we look at, it's the leader of the council is a Muslim gentleman whose brother, do you remember the Batley School protest? Remember when someone mentioned Mohammed at the Batley School and they all come out in their hundreds?
Oh, yeah.
His brother was the man who organised that protest. And when this blew up in the school in Huddersfield, there was mobs and mobs of Muslim men, including this imam was leading the protest outside the school. Well, the imam who's leading the protest outside school in Huddersfield, he's travelled past 30 mosques. Like, what's he doing in Huddersfield? Well, his brother's the leader of the council. So then the teacher tells us that he was paid £18,000 from Kirklees Council, which limits him from ever speaking the truth about what's gone on at that school. Then we get to the head teacher. He's been threatened with his pension and he's been paid. And he says that when this blew up on the world's news, they come into his school, the head teacher, I could have done a documentary just on that head teacher, because I had children who said they would be dead if it wasn't for that head teacher. Yeah, I had a boy who was a self-harmer, who had a bad mental health record, and the only person he felt he could talk to was that head teacher. And he actually said when I went round his house, he said, if I didn't have him as head teacher, I'd be dead now. Yeah, this head teacher was loved. He actually says on the documentary, I joined education to help poor children. Yeah, and look what they done to me. So what they done is when this news story blew up, they called him in, they sent people up, and they made him sign there and then. Sign this. Yeah, I don't know how much he got. But we're in our
he must have got paid more than 20 bags though for
he
that.
Probably
surely.
he probably got 100 grand. Yeah.
6 figures.
And his pension.
Yeah.
Which they were threatening him with his pension, that everything was going to be held responsible for him for the school and the problems in the school, which they weren't. Yeah. And they made him sign the paperwork. He wasn't even allowed to. His issue, he got escorted off the school property and he was never allowed to speak to another teacher. He never got a leaving assembly after working there 25 years. He never got anything. So what they done is they got their checkbook out and said, make sure no one can talk about this. And they sent people up. He was silenced. I then go to another teacher's house and I'm looking for the teacher. And then the lady answers and says, look, and I said, the whole thing was a lie. She goes, I'm not arguing with you. We know it was. We tried to tell the media. And I'm thinking it's the teacher. Well, it is the teacher's mum. But I'm saying, I need to speak to your son. She said, he can't speak to you. He said, he literally can't speak to you. I said, a non-disclosure agreement. She says, was he paid? She said, I can't say anything.
I'm trying to wrap my head around what's the justification for silencing them, just so the narrative can stay that same sort of subject. I'm trying to wrap my head. Why has so much money been paid out to silence?
Yeah, well, I put a freedom of information request into the council. They spent 274 grand, and then they tell the whole country that I lied, and then they make sure no one can prove that I didn't lie. So what I done is covertly recorded all the proof I needed. 7 teachers I got. Yeah, 7 different teachers.
What's the rules behind that? If you're covertly recording teachers who have signed an NDA to not say anything, are they going to get any backlash from that?
Possibly, yes. Now, you've seen at the minute, so when I made the film, that was a bit of and I say it on the film, look, I have to do this, but they shouldn't have took money.
No.
They took money to hide the truth. They took money and they allowed an English boy to be framed across the globe as a racist. They allowed this story to gather momentum as a lie, and they just took the money and sat there.
What would have happened though if they'd have turned that money down, do you think?
They'd have lost their jobs. They'd have silenced them the way they're silenced. One teacher, I knocked on her door, and you know when you're wearing a button, so it's a button camera, and I knocked on her door, and I knew she was close to Bailey, the child in question at school, and Bailey had a difficult upbringing anyway. Yeah, and I knocked on her door, and she just, as soon as I knocked on her door, she just sat on the floor and cried, and that's guilt. I looked and I thought, you're guilty. Yeah, all of you are guilty. Yeah, because you know what's happened. You've seen what's happened. And then I said to her, she said, how's Bailey? I said, he's in the car. She goes, he's in the car. And she legged it out to the car crying, hugging him. And I was standing there thinking, and because she knows the truth. She knows the truth, but they're all terrified. I saw the fear in all of them for talking about it. Like none of them knew they were being covertly recorded. The point is, if I didn't covertly record them, no one's going to see the truth. No. The truth is, you've all been paid. The truth is, the entire story was a lie. The British public have been lied to start to finish about this story. You've created. My worrying thing is at the time is I thought you've created a story, which when I say created, The incident happens here. 6 weeks later, right? The lawyers, somehow, a Syrian refugee then has a celebrity Muslim lawyer who represents every terrorist in the country, Shamina Begum, all of them. How do they even get in contact? Yeah, but he represents them. So the video's not out. There's no viral video. No one knows about this story. This lawyer puts in a criminal record check on the Syrian refugee and his family. Literally, say the criminal record check comes back 5 weeks later or whatever, on a Wednesday, Thursday morning, this story's global news. It's not a fluke, yeah? They've coordinated it, they've planned it, and they've pumped it to the world. And the reason being, if the truth could be told, the truth being that this Syrian refugee, who was a child as well, yeah? So he is a child. This film ain't about the Syrian refugee. It's about how he was used. He was totally used. He's a child as well. And the truth being that he was one of 20,000 in the United Nations resettlement program. And at the time in the war with Syria, no one wanted 20,000 Syrians coming, yeah, because we don't know who they are, right? And it's when ISIS were at their height. So he was one of the people brought in out of the 20,000. Now, if the truth be told, there's allegations of violence against girls, allegations he gets caught at school with a knife and screwdriver. He doesn't get punished for anything, basically, yeah? There's a lot of trouble going on. And rather than tell the truth, which would raise questions about the government's policies, it's just hidden. Because if they've hid that, that's what I thought. If you've hid this, not just hid it, but you've full reversed the story. Yeah. If you've done that about this, what are we getting the truth about? And when the public get to so when I've gone to court, this court case comes up, and I'm laughing, thinking, I've got all the proof I need. Yeah. So then then I got hold of the children. So basically, when this story blew up, a little girl went on Facebook. This is before my involvement, and said he beat me up with a hockey stick. Another mother went on Facebook and says he beat my daughter up. I literally just reported what they said, which is my job as a journalist. Yeah. This woman then goes on and says 2 days later, 3 days later, no, he didn't. Jamal, this kid was nothing to do with it. Yeah. And it's all wrong. So I then go to her house, say, what's going on? They threatened to rape me, Tommy. They threatened to, all on camera. This is all in the film. Yeah. The other girl I go to who he hit with a hockey stick, who's a grade A student, 11 A's. She's then gone on to study law. Yeah. He beat me up with a hockey stick. He beat me up with a hockey stick. He's this, he's that. I find another girl. Yeah. So I put all these stories together and I asked them all the question, and I managed to get 5 pupils. Now, when he actually broke his arm, we find out from the head teacher that he broke his arm because he was attacking a boy that was 4 years younger than him. He had him in a headlock. Someone pushed him off. That's how he broke his arm. Police investigated. It was an accident. Yeah. That's not what we were told. Jeremy Vine actually told the whole country there was a racist attack. This
was the part that is mind-blowing. You had Piers Morgan and Jeremy Vine to do that were wrong in my book, what they were doing there. Like, do you think there'll be any repercussions? Will they face any sort of adverse effect from that?
Well, I've been contacted now. So with this film, I produced it all to the judge. Said, there you go. Right. And the judge then took 6 weeks, stopped at the end of the case. After seeing all the evidence, he took 6 weeks, and then he ruled that the 5 pupils who come to court and the 7 teachers who were covertly recorded telling you everything you need to know, yeah, were all lying. Mm. So when he done that, he said they're all lying, and then he hit me with an injunction. But when he hit me with an injunction, I said, mate, he hit me an injunction that if anything from this court case to do with this, any of those covert recordings or anything are ever released, then he'll hit me for 2 years in jail. Yeah. So I said, but when he gave me the injunction, I said, but the film's already in America. Yeah. So the film's been in America since this court case 2 years ago. It's gone. For me, it stopped. It's dead. And then for the first time in my life, in my activism, I've always said, if you worry about consequence, you'll never bring about change. I've done a year of solitary confinement. I've been in 10 prisons to do it. And it got to the point where I come out of this court case. This court case resulted in my divorce. It resulted in me being hit for £1.6 million by the judge. They bankrupted me. I was broken. I was tired. And I thought, I haven't got another prison sentence in me, man. At that time, I thought, and I also don't think I can do this to my children again. And that's the first time I come out and I should have walked out of court. And the way I've led my activism would have been to walk out in court and say, your injunction hides the truth. The public need to see the truth. And then got locked up. But I was scared and I was worried and I was fearful of the consequence of all of that. And I didn't. So I just sat on it and I left it. And it's eating me up inside anyway. And then I was contacted this week and attempted to be contacted by a media company in the United States who have picked up the film that's been there 2 years. So I'm now sitting here, I'm worried because I know from what I understand is that they're putting the film out. So the world's going to get to see. I don't know how they've cut the film. I don't know how the full edits of their film are.
You get fearful when you're not in control of edit like that?
Well, I made my film, but in my film was tens of hours of footage, cut down into an hour and 44 minutes, an hour and 60. No, 2 hours. 2 hours it was cut down to. We were going to do a 3-part series, but I sent it to America, and then now I know that it's coming out. Now my injunction would prohibit me from showing, so that what you've seen, what you've watched, is limited, because there's certain parts of that if I showed you, I'll go straight to jail. Then they don't. The Americans aren't going to care about that, so they're going to put a film out, which by the time people even watch this, they probably might have watched the film. But I have no doubt at all that they're going to come after me for it, because they've spent a lot of money on silencing this, on hiding it, and it's going to be a total embarrassment because the public are going to get to see the truth. Now, do I want the public to see the truth? Of course I do. Yeah. Do I want to go jail? No, I don't. Do I want to spend a year of solitary confinement? No, I don't. Or 2 years is what the judge can give me. And the judge come to the verdict. It's just insane. It's insane. The judge come to the verdict that this child, who is the only person who gave evidence, was telling the truth, and every single other person. And what he says in his verdict is, sometimes people just lie. Sometimes they don't even need a reason to lie. So he found that a grade A student who's studying law, who was the only pupil I went through on our trial, her school record and all the glowing reports, he found that she just come to London and committed perjury for no reason at all. That's what he found. And he found that all 5 children committed perjury. And but then what he done is, he said that the other child had a glowing school record, and then he gave an injunction that prohibited the public from ever seeing any opposition. Do you know, when the witnesses got up in court, the 5 children got up in court to testify and give evidence, when it was the first start of the witness giving evidence, every member of the media got up and walked out of court. So there was no media report of the fact that the allegation that he called a woman, a mother, a fat white bitch. There was no report of the allegation that he spat in another girl's face and slapped her. There was no reports. So the public never got to hear, because the media, and people say, is it a conspiracy? Well, what, you've seen the film. Do you know what I mean? If you've seen most of the film where the police are involved, I call it the unholy alliance of this is a total alignment. Now, I've always felt that I'm under attack, and I guess I looked at it from my own personal point of view. But did you watch the Johnny Depp court case?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Johnny Depp was found guilty in the same court as me in London. Yeah. When he got a jury and the media were allowed to report, now then journalists then started calling into question the verdict in London. They refused him a chance to appeal. Now, the judge in the London case ruled against police officers' evidence, women's evidence, just took the word of Amber Heard, ruled totally against the evidence. Now, that's when I realised that this isn't about me, it's about the narrative. You could mess with the narrative of transgenderism. Johnny Depp's case was a Me Too narrative that they want to pump to the world. Men bad, women victims, and that's it, yeah? And that's why they ruled against him. And then the politicisation and weaponisation of the judiciary, which is what we're now seeing. We're seeing it, I think, even across America. So this story, or this film, is my story, but it's far bigger than my story, because it totally proves and shows how they're operating and how anyone who gets in the way, you start making waves. That's why when Andrew Tate was arrested, yeah, I said, you have to question everything, because I know what they've done to me.
Do you see similarities in what's happened to Tate, what happened to you?
Totally. The difference is that I've caught all of this on camera. I've got the covert recordings. You don't have to take my word for it. Listen to the teachers. Listen to the police. It's all there. The evidence is there for you. Yeah, it's not my opinion. Now, with Andrew Tate, for example, and when I say it's a conspiracy, there's an organisation called Hope Not Hate who are very pivotal behind the scenes of all of this. They're like an NGO organisation who are funded by George Soros and globalist people who want mass immigration into the UK. Their job is to attack, demonise and slander anyone who goes against it. When I say attack, they find out where you work, they find out where your family work, they go after everyone. The idea is to put immense pressure from all angles. When you see on this film, you see on the film I've created, the way they went for me is to go for my family. A lawyer hired an extremist, sent them to my house where my children were, and he threatens to murder them. And the police don't make an arrest. They attack my mum and dad's house. Police don't make an arrest. They traced the phone of someone who's intimidating my family. They actually, and you see it on the film, they actually confirm we know who it is, and they don't make an arrest. Yeah. And the whole time it's like, well, why not? Right. And all of this, and people say, oh, it's conspiracy theories. No, it's there. So with Andrew Tate, I travelled out, and this is an example where I can be first-hand witness to it. I travelled out to see Andrew Tate in 2017. Yeah. I travelled out with another journalist who's a female. When I walked out of the hotel room in the morning, she's standing on the door snogging him. Yeah. I sat in the car with her. She's messaging him. She went back out to see him. Yeah. I then see one of the people who I caught on recordings on another documentary. I made a documentary called Panodrama, which was an expose of the BBC. And I sent someone undercover into Panorama, and I've got covert recordings of them planning to make sexual allegations against me. Yeah. So, and it was this documentary that got me deplatformed from everywhere, because it proved the BBC is.
You must be ultra fucking paranoid if you just, oh, this is going on. How do you comprehend all that?
Well, at times I think I've been driven to borderline insanity.
Yeah.
So you've been doing this for like 15 years, fighting for what you believe in. You've had death threats, your windows put through, your parents have had their windows put through, your son's crying, prison multiple times. What's driving you to keep on the path that you're on like that? If that were me and I were doing something similar, as soon as my window gets put through, I'm like, all right, yeah, you know what? I'll stop doing that shit. What's motivated you to keep doing it for so long?
That's why they do it. And essentially, I am stubborn. I've always have been stubborn, and I'm right. I know I'm right. So I remember my ex-missus' dad and family said, just, you've got to stop. I said, am I wrong? What am I saying that's wrong? So stop, because they intimidate us. That doesn't work. It doesn't work with me. It's like I always said, if you say, don't draw a cartoon of Muhammad, and someone tells me not to draw, I'm going to draw 10. Yeah. And I've always been like that anyway. But when I question, and I put myself in a position where I've seen and hear so much. So I travelled the country for years with the English Defence League, meeting girls, listening to their stories, and just thinking, these bastards, yeah, have done this. And not just done it, but they've been facilitated to do it by our government and our police. They've been allowed to do it. The media have just ignored it. And then I found myself in a position where at one time I was the most watched journalist in the world. Yeah. So whether I like it or not, I said this to my son. I said, again, whether I put it on him, I said, I'd been outside Leeds Court, and I'd questioned on the way in. What the government started doing is putting reporting restrictions on all the Muslim trials. Yeah. The reason being, in the first one they didn't, and we found out that the hot iron rod with the letter M was heated up and scalded, and an 11-year-old girl had an M burned on her bum because she was the property of Muhammad. We found out another young girl had her tongue nailed to a table. We found out the horrific abuse and torture that these kids went to, because each day we were getting the news on it. Then they just put a blanket ban on every trial. So you'll have a 6-week trial. Everything that goes on in those 6 weeks, at the end you'll get one day news. Yeah, they'll lift the restriction. You'll get 30 men are convicted. You don't hear what they've done. Yeah, and it's gone. And then what they've started, then they delete the transcripts now after 5 years. So after 5 years later, these cases that are going on in the future, no one's going to get the true detail of what these men have done. We're not going to hear why they've done it. We're not going to hear the comments they said. We're not going to get to the motive behind it all. So that's all going on. And they started restricting it. So I asked the man, how do you feel about your verdict? I was taken off the street and put in jail for 13 months within 2 hours. Yeah, the judge said I committed contempt of court. I appealed. I spent 12 weeks on solitary confinement, and it found that everything they'd done was unlawful and illegal, and I was released from custody. Then they retried me at the Old Bailey, and they offered me a deal. Plead guilty and go home. So I said this to my kids. I said, I've been offered a deal to plead guilty and go home. I'm going to get emotional thinking about it. And I said to my son, and I'm probably getting emotional because I'm thinking about the fact I probably shouldn't have said it to my son. But I said, if I plead guilty, I'll go home. If I don't, I'll go back to jail. But if I go back to jail, millions of people will read this story, and millions more people. So let me sort myself out.
Take your time.
And he has 2 sisters. So I said, if this story here's one parent or one girl. Remember, these girls are your sister's age. Because my son was begging me. And I said, if this story hits one girl or saves one girl, because there's girls your sister's age who are taken. They're taken away from their parents, and they're tortured, and they're abused, and they're raped. And this goes on. And if it saves one girl, for me having to sit in a room for a few months, what should I do? And he said, you're right, Dad. So he then, because I just wanted it. Oh, I think I wanted their permission as such. So then, because I don't want to plead guilty, because I'm not guilty, but I didn't want to take their deal because I took a deal before in 2010. 2010, you Google it, mortgage fraud trial. They got my wife. They had my wife on tax. They got my cousin. They'd done a 6-year investigation into every member of my family. And then they took me to court and they had nothing on me. They charged me on tax. They said I owed them 137 grand. It got kicked out in 2 hours. But they'd froze my assets for 4 years. They'd froze my assets, froze my bank accounts. So I thought, you're screwed here, because you've got nothing on me and you've ruined my life. And then they offered me a deal, and the deal was plead guilty to a mortgage fraud. So when I talk about mortgage fraud, so do you know self-certification mortgages? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you used to just say how much you earn. Put down a 20% deposit, and then you can say how much you earn. So my brother-in-law, who was an apprentice for my company, earned 12,000, but on his form he said he earned 18,000 or 20,000 to get the mortgage. He bought a house. He sold the house 9 months later, made a profit. 4 years later, they come and nicked everyone, because they said that when you sell on that self-certification mortgage form, you lied, which then makes it a fraud. Even though the mortgage companies never lost a penny, no one lost a penny. They've done the same on my cousin. Hers was a...
And a mass amount of the population were doing the same thing.
They're encouraged. My solicitor said they're encouraged to do it. You'll get not guilty.
Yeah.
You'll get not guilty on this. Yeah. Everyone was encouraged. Banks encouraged this. Yeah. And as long as... but between me and my wife at the time, we had 7 houses. Yeah. This was before my activism, before English Defence League. We had 7 properties, all straight mortgages. Yeah. They had my cousin, my other cousin, and my brother-in-law. So then what they said is, if I plead guilty to their mortgages, that they signed, then they'd drop all of their charges against them and against my wife, who they hadn't prosecuted. They'd prosecuted her, but they hadn't took her to court. Now, at the time, no one knows what my wife looks like. Yeah, no one knows who she is, right? And I managed, and that's been a difficult job. So we live separate lives. So there was no image. But if she walks into court, if I walk down the streets of Luton, and I've had terrorists want to kill me, then I live a problematic life. My wife can walk the streets of Luton at the time, pushing the prams with the kids, I had young kids, without a problem. If she's put in court, even if she gets a not guilty, her life's about to change.
There's a picture, she's known.
She's done, yeah. So they knew that. So they offered me a deal, and I went out of court and rang her and said, I've been offered a deal to plead guilty and they'll drop everyone's cases. And it was guilty to 500,000 of mortgage fraud. So that would be a house report for 125, a house report for 375. That's where the fraud is, just what you borrowed off the bank, even though no one lost a penny. So 500,000 would have resulted in a 5-year sentence because it goes by how much you earn, how much the figures are. So I rang her up and said, look, I've been offered a deal, Jenna, and I'll get 5 years. But they'll drop everything against everyone else. She went mad, said, don't you fucking dare. You be away from the kids for 2.5 years. Don't you fucking dare. So then I walked back in and said, I'm not taking your deal. Go to trial. And then they sworn the jury in, and then they pulled me back out. Because they couldn't have the trial, because I get not guilty. They pulled me back out, plead guilty to this. So I said, how much is that? 125 grand. Which was one mortgage, which was my brother-in-law's because he was an apprentice for my company. I said, okay, and how long do I get for that? To my solicitor. He said, maximum 2 years.
You're getting a jail sentence, not just a fine there. They want to jail you for that.
I went to jail. They gave me 18 months. They gave me 18 months.
Is that just an attack on you then, putting everything on you?
Yeah. So they wanted me gone. I was leading the English Defence League. So I took that deal, whereas I could have got not guilty. But if I'd have got not guilty, my wife would have stood trial for tax. My cousins would have been in trouble, what's the reality? All these people are in trouble because of me.
You took the hit.
Yeah, and I'm having all my family crying all the time. All of them fucking crying because I've ruined their lives. And it's like, what can I do? I said, I took it, and what did I do? I done 9 months. I done my 9 months, and this was for a mortgage fraud, yeah? So I get sentenced for a mortgage fraud, which is a paper offence, which results in you going to a DCAT jail. I was stuck in Woodhill. I got battered, man. Absolutely battered. I was stuck in Woodhill. 6 months before this, do you remember the Dewsbury? There was a terror plot. English Defence League, we had a demonstration, and these 6 clowns, it was like 4 Lions, you know the film? Mm-hmm. They turned up 2 hours late, yeah, with bombs, right? So there's a video of them. So where the English Defence League were, there's a video of them and pictures of them walking through the same location 2 hours late, where they've got there late for what we're doing. But then they're pulled over on the way home. They seized their car. Police didn't look in the car. 2 days later, at the compound, someone's looked in the car. There's guns, bombs, suicide notes. They wrote a note to the Queen. They wrote a note to me. I had to be killed because of blasphemy, because I've committed blasphemy against Muhammad. So I've gone to their court case at the Old Bailey. I've watched the court case, and they get 30 years. So I remember as they give them 30 years, as the judge gave the last one, I was thinking, what can we say in court that don't get done for contempt of court? So I was like, God save the Queen. There's like 16 of them in front of us, all big bearded mullahs. And there was me and my cousin, and it all kicked off in the court. 6 months later, I'm up on this mortgage fraud case, and I end up in Wood Hill. And I go on the first day, and I've got my legal, and I look across. 1, 2, 3. Oh, bruv.
What, in the jail?
In the jail.
What are you fucking there just straight into
Oh, no,
it?
because there's a glass separating us.
All right.
I just thought, I'm in trouble, man. I'm in trouble.
I bet they were sat there rubbing their hands, weren't they?
They look like it's in a ghost. They're looking, thinking, fucking hell, it's Tommy Robinson. He's here. He's here. And then I've been put on the first night centre, and I'm on the first night centre, and then a screw's come to the door. He goes, I'm going to tell you this once. When they come to get you, do not leave this cell.
When the screws come to get you, or the guys?
The screw told me when they come to get you, which is the prison officers, do not leave this cell. I said, okay. He said, your life depends on it. Don't leave the cell. So I said, all right. Okay. So I sat in my cell. I was with my brother-in-law at the time. Yeah. So I sat in my cell because he'd been banged up for the mortgage fraud with me. I sat in my cell, and then he's come back probably an hour, 2 hours later with 2 other officers and said, come on, Stephen, you're going to A-Wing. I said, I'm not moving to A-Wing. And he said, if you don't move to, and he jumped straight in, if you don't move to A-Wing, I'm going to give you a arrest, you're going to get punished, you're going to get this. So I said, all right, you do that then. He goes, you'll go before the governor tomorrow. I said, all right, sound. Later, when I'm getting my dinner, he said, they're putting you on A-Wing where they were, the lads who were in for doing you. There's no cameras on A-Wing. Yeah? You'll be gone. So he goes, we're furious. Someone will be done for corporate manslaughter. And then it was the next day then, from that, I've gone on a legal visit, and I've sat down with a solicitor, and then after the legal visit, there's a waiting room in Wood Hill, which is the visits waiting room. So they've opened up the door. And as soon as I walked in, I saw the beards. And then I've just stood with my back to the wall. The screws locked the door. And then that's where I got rushed. I got my teeth smashed in. But they didn't know. I can tell by the look on the Muslim lads' faces that they didn't know I was coming in that room. But they've given me to them. Mm-hmm. And I said to the other prison officer afterwards, so I was black and blue. And I said to the prison officer afterwards, what the fuck? And he said, the other one said, mate, listen, these lads are doing 45 years. They're opening you up, or they're opening one of us up. I said, so they're just they control you lot. Because they know that they don't care. The Muslim lads who are doing life for terrorism don't care about wetting up a screw, serving him up, stabbing him up. And they literally handed me. So from that, then I was put down in solitary confinement, and I was shipped to Winchester. But and then the newspaper celebrated it. The headline in the Sun was "Tommy gets done." It's like, mate, it's ridiculous. Why? And I said at the time, why am I in maximum security jail with terrorists for someone saying they earn more than they earn on a mortgage form? It's not my local cappy. I should have been in the local jail, which was Bedford. But the whole thing was so, and I've been through the prison system. So I've been there. I've been in Peterborough. There was a 24 hours in police custody episode on Peterborough where I was, where I told them the same. I landed in Peterborough jail and I said, you know who I am? They said, yeah, they want you to say you want protection. I said, I don't need, I'm not asking you for protection. I'm not going on no numbers. So they said, well, you're going on the wing. I said, all right, put me on the wing. But I've warned you of what's going to happen. I've told you what's going to happen. And I'm going to protect myself. I'm going to defend myself. I want to walk out of here looking like this. And then they end up prosecuting me it's on an episode of 24 Hours in Police Custody. I was prosecuted because I was some lad, when the cell door opened, I come straight out of my cell. I'm not waiting to get stuck in my cell. And I'd walk down and I'd stand down the bottom, and the lad come up to me and said, a white lad said, you're going to get done with boiling water. So I said, all right, who's doing me boiling water? And he said the cell number, which there was 4 lads in from Bedford. They were doing 25 years. They cut a geezer's nose and ears off, stabbed him up. Muslim lads. And the day before this, I'd walk past, and my instinct, I've always gone my instinct. My instinct was telling me to hit him. Yeah, as I walked past the lad, and just to get safety for myself. And I didn't, because I was coming out. I was only in on an 11-day recall. And I wanted to get out, so I didn't want another charge. So when he says you're getting done with boiling water, so I said, who's going to do me? And he said the cell number. So I looked across, and there was a black lad who, he said the lad with his back to us doing it, that lad's put up a phone, load of spice, all this as a reward for who does any. So I said, all right. And then I walk over and fill the lad in. I don't give him a chance to turn around, because I don't know if he's got the boiling water. And that's what I was then prosecuted on. But then it got kicked out of court, because when they checked the records, which they tried to hide, I told all the prisoners. I said, I'm going to defend myself. I shouldn't be in this situation. Yeah, not on this stupid little bullshit license recall. So I've been through the prison system, and when I was in the prison system, to see how they control it.
You mentioned the solitary there. How many days did you do of that?
So back then, so I went on solitary in Winchester. Bedford had chaos. The whole place erupted in Bedford when I walked in there. They set me up in there as well. And then And then when the Leeds case, they put me, in 2011, I'd done 22 weeks of solitary. And I was all right. But you know, you're only allowed to do 30 days. Yeah. So to get around that, I'd done 30 days down the block in Wandsworth. Then they shipped me to Bedford. I'd done 30 days in the block in Bedford. Then they shipped me to Woodhill. I'd done 30 days in the block in Woodhill. Then they shipped me back to Wandsworth. Then they shipped me to Wayland.
What mindset you in there when you're just thinking, fucking, is this ever going to end?
I was, tired. And then my family were outside trying to get lawyers for human rights violations. They'd ring the lawyer, say, our son has been on solitary confinement now for months, yeah? And they'd all say, well, they're not allowed to do that, they're not allowed to do this. And they say, okay, our son's Tommy Robinson, he's the leader from the English Defence League. We can't represent him. So then they looked through and they looked up at the man who had represented me, Jamie Bolger's killers, yeah? Mm-hmm. Jamie Bolger, they cut his feet, remember that murder? Contacted him, he wouldn't represent me. So that is the power of political correctness and how far it's gone. You can represent the child killers, you can represent kids who abuse, cut off a penis of a child, but you can't represent me because I talk about Islam. And then, so about those 22 weeks, I went to jail, and I come out. I went in a great place, but I wasn't that bad. But then in 2017, when I done solitary in Onley, I was shipped. So I went to work. My car was outside the court, and I've said, "How are you feeling about your verdict?" Bang, I'm in jail. I'm in Hull. I started in Hull. They shipped me straight to Hull. Hull ain't got many Muslims. I was all right, and I rang up home. I remember ringing my wife. I remember I've just gone to work. So I rang up. I said, all right. She's all right. I said, yeah, I'm in jail. She said, fuck off. I said, I'm in prison. I've just got 13 months in jail. She said, what do you mean you've got 13 months? I said, I've just got 13 months in jail, man. And I was shocked myself. I said, I didn't even get asked to plead guilty or not guilty. Just bang, 13 months. Because the only law of contempt of court is a law where there is no jury and no one has any power, but the judge can do what he wants. So then I was in, and then I was in the hole, and I was all right. I was there 2 weeks. And I thought, this is all right. Yeah? And then they come and got me and said, you're getting shipped out. I said, where am I going? They said, we can't tell you. I said, you have to come with us. They put me in a taxi. They took me to Onley. And on the way down, when I was on the way down there, they told me once I was at jail, said, you're on the way to Onley. I said, Onley. And my brother-in-law had been in Onley. And Onley's over 30% Muslim. It's got the biggest population of Muslims in the country for a CCAT jail. So when I got there, I walked in and I'm thinking they must have set something up for me. There must be a safe area that isn't got Muslims. There must be a little small wing. There must be something. I walked in and he goes, well, you realise you're going to have problems here? I said, yeah. And he goes, so do you want to go on self-isolation? I said, what? I said, I was fine. Why have you come and got me from Hull? I said, I was fine in Hull. Yeah? And they goes, well, you can self-isolate so your door can be locked. I said, no, I'm not self-isolating. I said, what wing you put me on? And he goes, well, you're going to go on the induction wing. I said, sound, when my door opens, I'm coming out. I said, and I'm going to defend myself, and it's on your head. I said, because I shouldn't be here. I said, you've gone and brought me here. He goes, well, you need to self-isolate. I said, I'm not going to self-isolate. So then they took me straight to the block, and this was the World Cup, yeah? So they took me straight to the block. So I'm down the block, and you know what the block is in prison? The prison, you get a blue mat, right? So you've got nothing, because all the people who are down the block, you're getting punished. You're getting punished for stabbing or fighting or doing something wrong, burning your cell. So I'm down the block, and I'm like, the fuck am I doing down the block? Yeah? And down the block, there's no electricity, so there's no TV. I made a massive deal out of this, because me, it was a massive deal, because the World Cup was starting. So I was thinking, I'm in jail, World Cup's starting. I just watch World Cup, whether Love Island's on or something.
keep telling the story out. We'll have to fucking have a piss. Sorry, boys.
Back here, Mike's just come out as well.
Yeah. So I was sitting there, and he's put me down the block. So then when you're in the block, you have to see the governor every day. So they took me to see the governor. I said, what am I doing down the block? I said, what am I being punished for? I said, all these other men have done something. You've brought me here. I want a TV. He said, you can't have TV down the block. So I said, sound, I'm not going to eat or drink. Yeah. I'm going on total hunger strike. But the lad in the cell next door to me, so they used to put us in the shower. They'd lock you in the shower, then they'd lock the next one in the shower. So he'd pass his cereal or bars each morning. So I'd go get a thing and he'd whack his under the shower. Yeah? So whilst they think I'm on total hunger strike, so they'd open the door and say, food. I say, fuck off. Yeah? I ain't eating. Yeah? I said, and when I collapse, it's going to be all over the country's news. Yeah? I'm going to end up in hospital. I'm telling you that. I said, I will not eat a thing. So they're sitting there thinking, he ain't ate for a week. Yeah? I said, I ain't having water either. I said, I ain't doing anything. So I'll end up in hospital. After a week, the governor's got me out. But really, I'm eating because mate's giving me food. The governor's got me, he's giving me biscuits. So the governor's got me, I've sat before the governor. He said, you're going to have to eat. I said, you're going to have to get me out. Yeah. I said, because I'm not going to. And England are playing that night. So I sit down with him and he says, right. And he gives me a bit of paper. And he says, right, we're going to move you onto the wing. Yeah. but you're going to be isolated, yeah? So we need you to sign this for the isolation. I said, no. I said, I'm not signing that I want, again, I don't want isolation, yeah? I don't want to be here. You shouldn't have brought me here. So I'm not signing that. He goes, well, if you don't sign it, you're going back in your cell. I was putting back in my cell then. Puts me back in the cell. They must be sitting panicking, thinking, "Oh, he's going to collapse. This going to be all over the news. And what's he doing here?" And then I said, so then they call me back out. He goes, right, we've changed the wording of it. We're isolating him. I said, okay. I said, so you're going to put me on the wing, and my door's going to be locked. Have I got a TV? He said, yeah, you got a TV. He said, you agree to this? I said, what's the time? And they're like, England are playing there. I said, am I going to get to watch the England game? He said, yeah. I said, give me that. And I signed the thing, and they took me straight up to the wing. But what they've done is, so the only time they'd moved me, so they're obviously concerned at this point, because when they brought me to jail, I think they would let me get killed in jail, but 30,000 people marched on Parliament, 670,000 people signed a petition. There was congressmen in America flying into England to talk about it. The Brownback was the ambassador to the UK from the United States, and Trump's government had made him speak to the British government about my safety. Geert Wilders, the leading Dutch politician, had flown into the country. Lots of European parties were pressurising the British government. So then I thought, they think, he's got to be safe. Yeah. So then the only way they'd transport me or move me, so my cell was locked, and they'd move me to, I'd be allowed a shower and a phone call when the whole prison is locked down. So when it's locked down at 1 o'clock, they'd take me back down to the block where I'd have my exercise, so the block was like a square like this, and in the middle, you'd get let out there for half hour a day. Yeah, that's your exercise. You walk around the square. They'd take me down there to 1 o'clock, and my missus worked at a school, and my kids were at school. So I said, so I don't get to talk to anyone. So I didn't even get to talk to anyone for the whole time. So all of these things, and then when they put me on the wing, I had shit coming through the windows. So the building's used as a mosque. My window was there, and they're there. So I think all of these things. Then they knocked on my door. A screw knocked on my door and said, "Where's your wife?" I said, "I've been sat in here every day. I'm not allowed phone calls. Yeah, how am I meant to know where my wife is? Why?" They said, "There's intelligence. She's going to be attacked with acid." I'm like, "What?" And then they shut the door. So I think all of these things is for that. Yeah? And it probably worked. All of these things is for that. So this is all going on. I'm brought down the block every day. And when I was first brought down the block, so you get half hour, and that was I'm not talking, so my half hour to preach. So I'm debating everyone, because they're all Muslims mainly down the block. I'm walking around shouting everything and giving them facts and telling them, I said, when your imam comes, ask him this. Ask him this. Write it down. Ask him when he comes. And then I'd be telling them everything. And I've done the same in Wandsworth. Everywhere I went, I've done the same. In the one in Wandsworth, my door opened. It was the imam. He said, "Can you stop, Tommy?" I said, "Nah, bro. Stop what? Tell them the truth." I said, "You're converting them. They don't know what they're converting to." But that was, and then I was in Onley, and my solicitor hadn't even told me that there was an appeal going on, yeah? And I'm sat in this cell, and boom, 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 someone comes bang on the cell door. He said, "You're going home, you're going home." I said, "Fuck off." He goes, "You're going home, bruv. It's everywhere." I said, "What?" He goes, "Put on the TV." I used to get mail. I used to read. I had 7 hours a day where I'd read my mail, and I used to have my routine. And I've turned the TV on, and it was all along the bottom of the news. Tom Robinson to be released from prison. I was like, what the fuck, man? Because I weren't expecting it all. I thought I had another 4 or 5 months left. And I was sat there, and then I was meant to be, and I always book a holiday a year in advance. 2 days later, I was due to go on holiday to Tenerife with my family, but with name changed to her mum. So then as all this is going on, I'm thinking, I'm going home. And it took them hours. So when they was all locked up for lunch, I said, "Can I get out and make a phone call?" Yeah. When they were locked up for lunch, he said, "Yeah." So I rang my solicitor. I said, "Am I getting out?" He goes, "Is that it? How long till I get out?" He goes, they're just processing the paperwork." I was like, "Fucking hell, man." And then I said, "Can I leave the country?" He said, "Yeah, you're free. That's it." I said, "I'm going on holiday, man." And I've come out, but I thought I looked good, yeah, because I'd lost about 3 stone, yeah. So I thought I was thinking, I look all right, I feel healthy. I come walking out. When I look at the video now, I come walking out, I couldn't even breathe. I had such a sore throat because the press were all waiting. And I come out, and then my mate goes, "Bruv, you look like a junkie, man."
Just lost too much.
Because I hadn't eaten, because the food, in Only, so my food, they open the door and give me my food, yeah. Who's on the kitchen? It's all Muslims. I said, "So you can get anything in jail?" So I said, "I'm not eating that with my name on the fucking tray."
Let's get tuna and shit like that.
Yeah, so I bought tins of tuna, but I could only afford 5 tins of tuna a week. So I literally had 5 tins of tuna each day, and a banana, anything that was sealed. So I come out like, and then when I come out that time, I was a mess, man. I was an absolute mess. But I didn't realise it at the time. So I ended up getting diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. And I think it was all of, but as I said, I'd done 22 weeks before and I was fine.
I wonder if they thought they were going to be able to break you mentally.
Well, I think they thought they'd kill me. And then when that didn't work, because they thought, hold on, if he gets killed, there's going to be a war.
It's like they're putting you in this circumstance and
That's
environment.
impossible.
And it's like, he'll break. And you aren't broke yet.
But I did break because that year, the year after coming out of there, I wasn't me. I was drinking, I was sessioning, I was binging, I was going missing. I was doing everything. And I was in a bad place, man. And that bad place lasted a long time.
Do you look after your body now?
Now I do, yeah.
What's your routine look like?
I go gym, I hike, I train. That's all I do now. But then still fall off at times. But my
just reverting back to a little bit of partying or just fucking having fun?
Yeah, a bit partying, a bit having fun, but I haven't done for ages now. So I then looked at, I always say no surrender. You know? No surrender. I thought every time I have a fucking drink, I'm surrendering then. Because I'm destroying myself. And I wasn't drinking for fun. I don't have a good time. And then I don't have a good time. So then I think that's how I was dealing with everything. Because at the time of this is what you've watched on that film was the breakdown of my family. And it was the breakdown of living at home. And then I had nowhere to live. And then you know that boy in the film, Bailey, I end up moving. So when this story happened and this kid was attacked and his family were attacked, I brought him to live with me. Yeah, I brought him his two little sisters. The little sisters were only 11, 10. They're the same age as my daughter. They were out of school for 4 or 5 months, nothing happening. So I put them in my house. They had nowhere to go, man. They were made refugees. So I brought him to live with me, and then I end up getting him a flat, and then I end up sleeping in his spare room. I end up in his spare room, and all this is going on. So at the time, I was in a bad place, mate. Bad place, but then now I'm in a good place. So
You ever taken any psychedelic?
no, what,
DMT, mushrooms, anything
mate,
like that?
I have heard so much about ayahuasca.
I imagine your DMT trip would be fucking crazy.
I've heard so much about ayahuasca.
I think if you did ayahuasca,
we hadn't done ayahuasca, but we've done DMT trips.
Have you?
yeah. I know ayahuasca ends up like leveling people out and softening them up a bit, so it's probably not even a good idea for you to do it.
No, I've heard. Well, I've heard it gets rid of your ego.
100%.
But that might be part of what
Part of
you
why I'm
need
doing
to. not why you're
I'm
doing
not
it,
backing that.
but you need a bit of
No,
that
yeah.
for what you stand for.
It scares you. It makes you focus.
I've not touched
For
ayahuasca.
about a year.
Keep that mic close, dear.
Have you done it?
For a year, I wanted to do DMT. For a year, I wanted to do it. And then my mate did it. And his delivery lad videoed him. And he's just on his bed, just laughing.
Yeah, but you don't want people videoing you. It needs to be like a sacred. By yourself, setting
I'd have
settings
to go
important.
Peru because I looked at it. I did look at it. I looked at it.
Look at Soltara Healing Centre.
Okay,
If you've got a bit of money to invest, Soltara Healing Centre is the place to go.
is it? Where's that?
Amazon.
Yeah, because that's where I'd want to go because I wouldn't want anyone English being there. Anyone who knows who I am, I wouldn't feel comfortable.
You can pay for private bungalows. It's private. You go do your ceremonies with the shaman, then you'll go back to your room. It's a bit more.
That's what
We've had some friends, Anthony Holmes, who's been and done some ayahuasca places around here, and it's fucking. It'd be too much.
Yeah, because there's one in Norfolk.
There's starting to spread around. This message of psychedelics is definitely starting to spread now because it's opening people's awareness up.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like when it's difficult for me because I'm so out of the loop of what you're doing. It's like hard to grasp all this information. You've got like a good hard drive up here, mate, to be able to store all this. And it might just soften that down a little bit, maybe. I don't know whether you want to be softened down. Do you agree with that? I think it definitely makes you self-aware of where I will come in short and where I could have pushed. It makes you go very introspective. And I find it hard to do that, me. I'm like adrenaline kid anyway. Like go, million miles an hour.
Yeah, same as me. If I'm on something, I'm on it.
Yes.
I'm on it.
Yeah.
And then the only so what I realised is as well. So when that court case finished, I went to Tenerife and I joined a fitness camp. I went for months on a martial arts camp.
Nice.
And then I realised so what I do now is I go mad in my work because I end up I felt destroyed again after the rape of Britain because I realised I've got these girls and they're relying on me, and I'm not a counsellor. And I wasn't ready for this, and they're so damaged.
And you're processing all that. That's the thing that you've got to understand. I think
Negativity.
you're taking all that in.
Yeah.
That's all in here.
I think people forget you're human.
Yeah.
I think people forget you're human too. So like all the things the prison and seeing and leaving what these girls and kids have been through, it's hard for a person to have all that inside because who do you vent to? Who do you
And
talk to?
it's seeing it, you know, like so. Which is what we tried to do with the rape of Britain, was you might read a headline about grooming, you might read a story, you ain't feeling the pain of the mum and dad. You need to see that girl. You need to hear her pain and see her emotion, and you need to understand what it's done to them and how 20 years on, Like one girl on it was episode 4. She rings me up. So when I'm chasing these girls down, one girl went online and said, I'm going to be the first person to kill one of these. Where are the English men? Yeah. So I looked it up and someone sent me it and I looked it up before, right? So I got a private investigator. I found her in a hostel in London. And I drove to London. And I always wear a camera. I didn't let her know I work. I always, when I'm doing that, because I don't want anyone to say I've said nothing I haven't said. So I went there, knocked on her door, some black lad answers. Like, what the fuck are you doing here? I said, I'm here to talk to this girl. I won't name her. Yeah. I said, I'm here to talk to this girl. She comes out. She didn't like me at all. Yeah. She didn't like me at all. So I said, I just want an hour with you. I'm doing this investigation. I've read your comment. Yeah. You don't need to kill him. Yeah. I said, that's not going to help anyone. It's not going to help you. Just give me some time. Help me bring him down. We sat in the car for a couple of hours, yeah. And about a week later, I gave her my number, said, let's talk. About a week later, I'm sitting up in Manchester. I'm in a house and we're working on this project. I've got all the pictures of them. And this is all on the documentary. She messaged me, say, you got half hour, Tommy. Whatever you want to know, I'll answer, yeah. After that, you're not going to have another opportunity. So I'm like, what? So I ring her up. I'm like, what's happening? I said, where are you? She said, I'm in Telford. I'm thinking, oh, she's gone to kill him. She's gone to kill him, yeah? I said, what are you doing in Telford? And it's all, and it's such an emotional thing to listen to. She said, I'm ending it, Tommy. I'm here to end it. And then I said, what do you mean you're going to end it? And part of me selfishly is thinking, well, before you go kill this dude, you're ringing me. I'm in trouble as well for that. And I'm like, no, don't end it. I said, like, and then I started saying, where's your mum and dad? How far's your mum and dad? Your mum and dad love you. You're gonna mess this up. He wins. You end it, he wins. Yeah, he wins. And then she just breaks, man. And she said, I'm here to kill myself. And this is 18 years after the abuse. So it's a very important part that the public see. Look what they've done to these girls. Look where their lives are. In her story, she tells how she gets a new relationship. She's having sex and the flashbacks come. She can't have a relationship. It breaks the relationship because she's always having flashbacks of the men all raping her. So, and then in the end, I'm talking to her. It's a 10-minute conversation. And do you know the moment that just stops it is, I said, you know what? I said, please. Like, I was begging her and said, like, look, I said, I've just had a shit curry. Yeah. And I was talking and she said, you've had a shit curry? And it was a changing moment. I said, yeah. She goes, did you make it or order it? I said, I ordered it. She goes, you've got to make it with love. I said, please come here and make me a curry, man. I said, and then she starts laughing. And then that was the breaking moment because she was on that nosedive. And I said, I'll send someone to pick you up. I'll send you the address. You can drive here. And then she did come. She come and stayed the night. And I rang my mate because it was about 11 o'clock at night or something. I rang my other mate in Manchester. I said, oh, mate, what are you up to? He goes, I said, I need you. And I need your missus. I said, there's a girl coming in now. And we've got 4 men in the house. She's broken. I said, and I need your missus to come in. And these missus sat with the girl all night. We woke up the next day, they're still sat together. But I said to her, when you come here, I'll put everything away. You don't need to talk about this. Well, don't talk about it at all. Don't talk about him. Just come here, we'll get some food.
Just open up.
Just come here, yeah. And she came. But I think so when you hear of these girls, and I see so many politicians do it, they talk about them like statistics. So no, it's a human being. She's got a mum, she's got a dad, she's got a sister, and she's got a brother, and you've absolutely annihilated the entire fabric of this family. So when they go on about community cohesion, because they hid it for community cohesion, you had, 1,400 victims in Rotherham alone? All of them have got 4 family members. There's 10,000 people in that town directly affected by the rape in that town. Yeah, they're broken, and you think by hiding it, you're bringing community cohesion. So then they label everyone as far right. They're families that are broken. And if it was happening to Muslim families, the whole country would be on fire. And yet we're not even supposed to talk about it or defend it or want to protect the girls. So yeah. So again, when you say what makes me not stop, it's that. It's knowing what they've done. It's a level of disgust, anger, and also knowing that I draw a graph. We drew a graph ourselves. I've done a speech in Russia called The Rape of Britain. English Defence League forms here. These grooming gangs, their arrest rate is like this. English Defence League forms 2009. It just goes like that. Because the government realised and media realised, and Andrew Norfolk was the journalist who was given all the awards for highlighting this. I showed the videos. What he says is he'd been told about it for years, but it was too hot topic for him to talk about. So he was a coward and he continued to allow girls to get raped. Yeah, won all the awards he did, yeah. And everyone talks about him like he's a hero. Mate, you were wrong. And you knew girls getting raped and you were too scared to talk about it. Then he says, we saw the emergence of the English Defence League, far-right thugs and hooligans. And I knew we had to take the debate back from them. So you only started reporting on it because the English Defence League were marching through the streets, which is great for me because that's what we wanted. We were a pressure organisation. Yes, we were hostile. Yes, there was a lot of anger, but that was justified anger. Yeah, that men were angry, thousands of them, because of what's been allowed to happen. And behind closed doors in corridors of power up and down this country, they were made and forced to start talking about it. And it was at that point, which is when the change come, because if it hadn't been for the English Defence League, which so many people frown about that as an organisation, if it hadn't been for that, no one would even still know about these gangs. You covered up for 30 years. You'd still cover up now.
Why is it they got covered up so much?
Why? Because again, they want to create this utopia of multiculturalism Britain that's perfect, and the reality is it's not. You've imported alien ideologies into towns and cities that mix like oil and water. There's a different mindset of men. There's a different aggression, and you want to pretend everything's fine. Because if you don't, it's your immigration policy that's brought them there. And then you have the vote bank politics, which and the power, as I said, a lawyer won't represent me because I talk about Islam, but it'll represent child killers. Police officers now, the Rotherham report changed it for everyone. And I was in jail in 2011 when that report came out. And I remember watching it start blowing on the news. And I remember we'd been mocked. I sat on Jeremy Paxman on Newsnight. And he mocked me when I was trying to tell him. I thought this ain't, and it didn't age well for him, that interview, because he just looks like a clown now. Because everything we said has come into fruition. Everything we warned about has been proven true. Everything. The distrust now in the media, and I keep saying there's going to be a moment in time, we've been censored for a reason because they're scared. There's going to come a time when people are that realise, and that's coming now, it's already come. With COVID, it doesn't matter what you're talking about. COVID, vaccines, transgenderism. There's things you're not allowed to talk about. And that list is ever growing. It started off with us on Islam and open borders. And people celebrated when we were silenced, yeah? Because it was Tommy Robinson and he's an ex-football hooligan and it doesn't matter because of the way I walk and talk and the upbringing I've got and where I come from. But now they're censoring doctors, nurses, scientists. Now people are cottoning on and realising, and the level of censorship is growing, and big tech control what you hear in the platform.
Which are usually run by liberals as well, would you say that?
Which is run by globalists who all have the same mindset and are certainly mass corporations who benefit from this and who want their worldview. What is their worldview? What are they doing? The breakdown of the family has been very instrumental and important. I think if you look at the 1960s, 80% of black children had a dad in the United States. It's now 20%. If you don't, that's the real racism, and that's orchestrated and organised. Planned Parenthood, the attack on the family, the celebration of even the feminist movement, the reasons they brought in the feminist movement. So they don't want a strong family unit, because if you've got a strong family unit, then you're harder to control, you're harder to manipulate.
Sorry, my mic's broke. Eroding the traditional values of family. That you feel that's trying to get eliminated.
That's what even the Black Lives Matter, the organisation, on their own website said that their goal is to abolish the breakdown of the nuclear family. Yeah, their also goal was to promote LGBTQ+. All these issues have got nothing to do with Black Lives, and that's because Black Lives Matter was just a front organisation to bring division, organised by a white bloke called George Soros, funded to take genuine grievances and anger by the black community. These people can't cause the revolution that they want, but they take the real anger about genuine historical abuse of their race and slavery and wind them up and aggravate them because they know that these people will go out and commit violence and destruction and cause more division. And I probably played my part in that at times. I think you want a divided society because, well, if we're all battling and warring each other, you're imposing more laws that take my freedom and their freedom and his freedom. They want you separated into gay, black, straight, all these different groups, all fighting against each other, whilst they do. And I think COVID would have woke a lot of people up to that.
You mentioned a word there, revolution.
Yeah.
We mentioned it briefly on this podcast a fair bit. We're not smart enough to fully understand what's going on. Society, where is it moving? Where should it move? Where do you feel it could be moving to? If there is a revolution to have a more positive state, a better place to live, how does that look?
There's been a revolution. It just wasn't a violent one. Hate-filled, progressive educators are now in charge of our schools and universities. They're pushing their mindset. Our children are being taught it. We're being told about transgenderism, sexualisation of a generation of children, confusion of them, breakdown and real degeneracy is being promoted and to pollute us. The breakdown of our communities, it's all there. It's all there. Now, what is their goal? What are they doing? When I say they, it's like, we become weaker and we become more susceptible to be slaves, essentially, rather than be successful. When they brought in COVID, they broke down just destroyed many small businesses, absolutely destroyed them. Who swallows them up? The mass corporations. The mass corporations, which are controlled by the certain groups, 2 groups control all of it. They control the media, they control everything. Now, what do they want? They want us all controllable. And they don't. And what's uncontrollable is why they've gone for Andrew Tate. They want us all having blue hair and not knowing whether we're a man or a woman. They don't want to.
Did you watch the Tate's documentary, the Vice one?
Yeah.
What did you think to that?
It's just a stitch up.
Yeah. Has Vice ever reached out to you?
Vice, all of them. I was very surprised that Andrew Tate, he don't need the media. The media only come and talk to you when they've got a reason and they've got an agenda to finish you or ruin you. Now, he don't need them, so I was very surprised he let them.
Did you see when they put him in the cage to fight the president?
Yeah.
That was crazy.
But it's just, Vice was started off by Gavin McGuinness. And it was started off by someone on the right wing and someone on the left wing, and it was a very good channel and it was very good media. And then, like everything else, they've gained control of it. But even with Andrew Tate, so you see that what they didn't tell you in that Vice thing, they played the voice clips, yeah. But what they didn't tell you is that the 2 girls that allege Andrew Tate raped them, okay. In the UK, if a girl says I was raped, they take her phone, right? They took these 2 girls' phones. What they had was them conspiring to extort Andrew Tate out of money. And when he didn't extort him out of money, there's rape claims.
Are they conspiring with each other?
They were conspiring with each other. The 2 girls.
Yeah, the WhatsApp thread.
Right.
The 2 girls were conspiring with each other to extort Tate for money, yeah? And then they made rape allegations, yeah? Which is why there was no charges. Now, Vice know that, but they didn't tell you that. Mm-hmm. I know that. So I'm watching it thinking, you liars, man. Like you took parts of it and you've gave the public a dishonest view because you want to bring him down. Why do you want to bring him down? Because boys are now wanted to be men. But he is creating, and I read so many comments, and in fact, let me show you this, yeah? I'll just show you this. This is my own boy, yeah? Because my boy loves Andrew Tate.
Whilst you're finding that, I saw a statement, I don't know if it was true or not, that the government were now funding for lessons to teach things about Andrew Tate and...
What, to not teach or teach?
No, they're teaching, so what they're doing is, I think it's £1 billion. I think
it's
something
$1 billion.
It's an astronomical figure.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they do that on me already. Yeah, so my daughter's school, my daughter's 12 now, but she was 11. The teacher rang me up. He said, we're just going to make you aware that if words are said at school with your daughter, you're brought up in a lesson for the year above. I said, what do you mean I'm brought up in a lesson for year above? This is national curriculum. They do this now. So I'm using it as an example. I said, well, what are you teaching? I said, because it's not going to be the truth, is it? I said, so hold on a minute. You think, so you've got safeguarding for my daughter, and you're going to teach all the kids in our school what? That dad's a racist. That dad's an extremist. I said, why don't you, let me refute what you're going to teach. I said to the teacher, do you think, as a head teacher, that that's a good idea? He said, no, I don't. And I had to get a lawyer. Here, I'll show you this. Watch this transformation here. You blow his face. Watch this.
This was me 8 months ago before listening to Andrew Tate. And this is me now.
Yeah. Rigged up, yeah.
I'll show you that.
I think there you've got to be careful because the Tate thing, he is teaching like that there. He's teaching you principles that there's a lot of like proof in it and the validated.
Don't take antidepressants, go and get fit.
Yeah.
Go for a walk, start
make
off,
money, provide.
Be a strong man.
Yeah.
But they don't want strong men. And that's very evident. The feminisation of men, I think now, even the level of testosterone we have, the equivalent we have now at age 30 is what a 60-year-old had 30 years ago. Now, you can go down the whole rabbit hole into what's in the food, what's in the water, what they're doing what they're doing it, but they've weakened men. So men then become so feminised and pathetic. Like we've now got a generation of absolute melts, yeah, who are too scared to even talk, let alone stand up and fight for themselves. And then you bring in the attack on their identity and the embarrassment, and we're supposed to be ashamed of who we are and our culture as such. And then you break down and you don't even tell them who they are or where they've come from. If someone doesn't know who they are, they don't know their history, they don't know how they've got there and the history behind it, they're not going to fight for it. Which they don't want them to fight for it because they don't want nationalism. They don't want you being proud to be English or proud to be British. They want a one world government. And this all would have been seen as so far-fetched, conspiracy theory, all this nonsense. They're telling us now. It's all there. People who were crucified like Alex Jones, like David Icke, people who were crucified for talking about all these things, now you watch their videos from 15 years ago, think, oh, he's bang on the money. Mm-hmm. He was bang on the money. And for being bang on the money, he was ostracised, he was silenced, he was exactly what they've done to me. Yeah. So I know what they've done to me. But I'll tell you the moment which really threw me. Winchester Prison, when I got beat up in Woodhill, transferred to Winchester, this was a time in my life where I actually thought I'm never talking about Islam again. I'm in jail. I thought I just can't, yeah. And that's how I felt at that moment in time. And then I get a legal visit, and I go on a legal visit. It's two young lads that were younger than me. They look like lads as well. And they said, no one knows we're here seeing you. No one, okay? Only the head governor. So when you go back to the wing, you can tell them whatever you want, whoever you want to tell. I said, okay, who are you? We're from a secret organisation in the Met Police called the Metropolitan Intelligence Bureau, MIB. I said, okay, what do you want? And they said, we can help each other. Yeah? So I'd left the English Defence League before I went to jail. They wanted me, they were offering me to come out of jail, yeah, and align the right, but be their man. I'm like, you fucking mental. You lot, the left hand ain't talking to the right hand. You lot have persecuted me. Your police forces have persecuted me in order to stop me, but you don't want me to stop. Is that what you're saying? And then, so they asked me, what's your plans when you leave here? I said, mate, because I'd managed to maintain, even though they'd frozen my assets, we'd maintained the 7 properties my wife had. So she still had the houses. So I said, well, she's going to sell them. I'm going to go back to work. I'm going to try and get into development. I've obviously been done for mortgage fraud now, so I can't borrow. I'm going to try and get back to earning money like I used to do. That's my plan. Yeah? And they said, all right, where will you be in 5 years' time? I said, I'll be a millionaire in 5 years' time. And I'm confident of my ability, and that's what I'm going to do. And I sat there, had a discussion, had a laugh, and I said, lads, I'm not interested. I'm no one's bitch, and least of all your lot, yeah? I come out of jail. I'm driving on the motorway, and I give a speech. It's called Tommy Robinson York speech. You can listen to the interview tapes, yeah? Driving on the motorway, boom, they come from everywhere, police. What the fuck's going on? They arrested me on a burglary charge. So I get brought in the station on burglary, and I'm thinking, I ain't even left the motorway. What are you talking about? So I've got the recordings of the interview, and I'm like, what? And I go home, and I walk in, and Jenna says, Winchester Prison's been on the phone. So Winchester Prison. She said, yeah, you need to ring this number. You've left some of your stuff in Winchester Prison. And I'd only been out. I had 9 months of licence. So when I got nicked, I was thinking burglary. I'd be remanded, yeah, but I didn't. They gave me bail. So then Winchester Prison. So I rang the number. It's 0207. So that's not Winchester. That's London. So I rang the number. It says me, Ollie from MIB. I said, oh yeah. He goes, you're in a predicament here, Tommy. I said, you bastard. And then I cried my eyes out because then I thought, I'm fucked. And then he said, all we're saying is come and meet with us. And he goes, what's going to happen if the media get hold of your burglary charge? I said, I haven't done a burglary. He goes, okay, you're going to end up, he goes, you're answering bail in 4 weeks. You'd end up doing another 8 months on licence recall. Now, prison for me is a matter of life and death. I'm surprised I've come out of it. So it's not just like go sit in a cell for a few months. Someone might get a chance on me. So I'm terrified of that, yeah? So he said, that's what he said. And I said, mate, I ain't coming to meet you. Yeah, I ain't coming to meet you. So then I had a meeting with the head of my counter-terrorism lead for the probation. I recorded her as well. And I was due to speak at Oxford University. And I had the meeting with her. I said, I'm being blackmailed. I'm basically being blackmailed, yeah, by security services because they want me to operate for them. And then I said, I'm talking to Oxford University next week and I'm going to tell the world. Yeah, I'm going to expose all this to the world. 4 or 5 days before Oxford University, boom, that's when I went to Peterborough Jail. They come grab me on a recall. No, the 28 days they give me 28 days from Bedford first. For 28 days they come. So someone said on Twitter that they were going to kill me. So I said, I'll meet you here. And I told them where to meet me. Don't go looking for me. I'll meet you here. Just boom, they use that as a licence recall. So I missed the Oxford University speech. So I was put in jail. I come out after 28 days. And my solicitor rings me and says, we've got a confiscation order. Now, when I pleaded guilty for the mortgage fraud, I pleaded guilty under the agreement that there's no proceeds of crime because I didn't benefit, yeah? And so that's why I pleaded guilty. That's why I took the deal. Leave my family alone and you've got no proceeds of crime. I don't owe you no money. My solicitor says, you owe 125 grand. They're taking you back to court. I said, how can I plead? I've done a deal. Can't owe 125 grand at this time. So they worded that at this time, there's no confiscation order. It's not at this time anymore. Yeah? 125 grand. Boom. MIB. You won't have to pay that. You won't have to pay it. Just come and talk to us, Tommy. I sold my house. I paid them their 125 grand. Yeah. And then when I went to Oxford University, the 2 days before, the probation, counter-terrorism league come round and said, you're not allowed, you're going to Oxford. You can't talk about the police at all. You're on licence. You're under our conditions. No talk about the police. No talk. They listed all the things. So if you watch my Oxford Union speech, which is the most watched video I've had of their Oxford Union speeches, had like 4 million views. I start off saying, I come here to give you a speech and expose the police, expose what's gone on. I'm not allowed to. So I'm going to give you my... So what they listed, they fought by Islam, Muhammad. They gave me a list of things I couldn't talk about. They thought he's snookered. He ain't going to be able to talk about any of them. But I just went and told my life story, which was the best speech I've ever gave. Yeah. So it was easy because I thought I'm just going to tell you what happened to me growing up, what I've seen in Luton. But that's when the security, that's the security services. Then I thought, if they're doing that to me, what are they doing to them? So then I thought about terrorist attacks and terror plots. And it's really changed my mind on a lot of it because I thought, you know, every time we have a terrorist attack, what we see is that our security services have been in cooperation with the terrorist. Every time. They've approached them. They've been with them. Lee Rigby's killer had met him. They'd approached him in Kenya. Yeah, they'd got him out of things in Kenya. What relationship is going on here? And have you allowed attacks? Have you? So I started really going down a rabbit hole thinking, hold on a minute. Because you wanted me to lead a far-right movement for you lot. So I would have been working for you. So then I started looking at Anjan Chowdhury thinking, you work for them.
Do you think they recruit people who are good at organisation?
I think they recruit people who they can galvanise, that can help them. Again, all comes down to narrative.
Divide.
What is it they want? Yeah, what is it they want? They want to pass more laws. After every terrorist attack, they pass more laws that infringe on all of our rights. You see, like recently, you can see it with the Stop Oil protests. Stop Oil protests start blocking the bridges. They start sitting in the road for 7-8 hours. The police are told to stand down. They're handing them water and sandwiches. Yeah, what's going on? Right? If I'd done that, I'd get battered. Right? We all know that. But what they've done is they cause so much disruption that the public gets so angry. So they create the issue. They create the problem. Then they've just brought in these new protest laws, which they used at the weekend to lock up the people who are talking against the monarch. Yeah. So they bring in these new laws and no one argues because they're to stop oil. And everyone's thinking, yeah, they're on our bridges, they're in our roads, they're blocking us, they're blocking ambulances. We've had enough of this lot. So then they take the law and they pass a new law. But that new law ain't for them. That new law is for us. That new law will be used for us when they bring in the next pandemic or whatever they're going to do. Yeah, they'll then have these laws, and that was proven this weekend because the organisers of the protest who wanted to protest against the monarchy were all rounded up and nicked. Well, where's our right to freedom of assembly? Gone. And they create these problems. So remember, as I looked at everything, and I've gone through this time, I looked at Iraq, I looked at Afghanistan, I looked at the unjust invasions, I looked at the bullshit we were told, I look at 1 million people dead in Iraq. No wonder they're angry. No wonder Muslims are bloody angry. It's their family members are being blown up. You look at every conflict from Ireland, you look at the abuse we've done, you look at our government are the terrorists. Yeah. And I started looking and viewing it very, very differently. I've always been totally for our armed forces, still am. Yeah. But we've been fighting lie after lie after lie. Weapons of mass destruction. They wanted to take out Gaddafi because Gaddafi was becoming the king of India. He was becoming so successful and he was bringing in his own currency based on gold reserve, yeah, which would have weakened the dollar. He had to go. By getting rid of him, you opened up the borders, boom. They knew what was going to happen when they took out Saddam Hussein. I watched an American general say 10 years prior it would open up a void for ISIS. Then we find out whose side were we on in Syria. Not Assad, who's a liberal. Who's a liberal for Islam. Christians were safe under Assad. Yeah, all of a sudden, ISIS. Who's funding and supporting them? Us. Our governments. Whose side are we on now in Ukraine? Now we're in Ukraine. We're on the wrong side. You're totally on the wrong side. You overthrew the democracy. We funded the overthrowing of a democratically elected government from 2014, and then you put a puppet in, who's Zelensky, so you can launder billions of pounds because your war machine that you've always used to launder money and buy weapons that no one needs for stupid amounts of money because you create the bloody war. Yeah, it's all business, whether it be big pharma, everything, and all of it. Then I started looking at it like a jigsaw, thinking I can see it, and we're just stupid idiots in the middle of it. And little pawns in the middle of it. So most people say, what can we do? I said, but there is, when you talk about a revolution, there is a war. Yeah, we're at war. It's a war of knowledge and it's a war of information. And that's what censorship's about. They're trying to control it. But so it keeps popping back up. And I said, I sit there and think, well, you've tried everything with me. And originally it was just people like me. How many people now are talking about this? There's loads of us. Yeah, there's people popping up everywhere. And then now, hopefully, I'll say with Elon Musk, I'm still banned. But there is I guess I've viewed...
Why are you still banned there then?
No idea.
Have you tried to push that? Are you deplatformed? We mentioned off camera, Rumble's accessible for you.
Rumble's accessible. Getter's accessible.
And are you posting content there consistently?
And Telegram, yeah.
What's the deal with, obviously, I've seen you on quite a few podcasts now. I've done a bit of research this last week and everything still seems to be up. You've spoke about some of the things you spoke today. Like, do you ever see any of the people getting targeted whose channels you've been on? Obviously, you can't post yourself.
No, things have changed like that as well. So YouTube used to just block me. Right. If you put this on YouTube, it won't be blocked anymore. Strange. Certain things seem to have changed. Because I was like, Facebook's never changed. You, if you put a picture of me and you up on Facebook, you get deleted. You'll get warned.
So no pictures after then, or what?
You're not even allowed, you're not allowed to mention my name. And then there's an interview I've done at Danish Parliament where a CEO from Facebook is getting interviewed in Danish press, and he says, he puts me on the level. He said I'm a hate figure, and he puts me on a level, and he names this bloke who I'd never heard of. So I looked him up, and he's a Serbian warlord who massacred 5,000 people in a day.
And you aren't the same sort of fucking. Did you ever comprehend when all this started that it'd get to this level?
No. And then there was no plan for it. So remember, I was working on a building site, and 6 months later, I was leading the biggest protest movement Europe's seen. What was
the main reason behind starting the EDL? Because I remember when I was probably about 16, 17, and the first I heard about it was my granddad's wife's son, who was ex-military. He used to go on the EDL protests or marches and wear whatever he used to wear. And my mum and dad, they don't really like dive into what we're diving into right now. They were just like, oh, he's a racist. We don't speak to that side of family because of him, and started like, so that's all I thought about EDL. I just thought it was just a racist group growing up. Why did you actually start?
Because the media told everyone it was racist as well. Mm-hmm. Do you know, every single demonstration we had from start to finish, a non-white person spoke. I made sure of it. So it was started by whites and blacks in Luton, the English Defence League. Our motto was black and white unite from the start. Yeah, but the media just go to a demonstration, pick out a load of lads that look like you.
Swimming cap on.
10 lads out, one of them have a can of Stella, and they just boom.
I'll hide my bulldog tattoo then. The first one I saw was the girl in the northeast.
With who?
The girl in the northeast who'd been raped by some immigrants.
Oh, you'd watched Justice for Chelsea.
To go up from down south up to the northeast, and before you got there, I think you'd been arrested or they'd stopped the march.
Yeah, that was the Justice for Chelsea.
And her brother went and shooed the lads in.
And they reminded him.
He got locked up and the immigrants didn't, who'd raped her.
Yeah. They got relocated.
That was the first one I saw that.
They got relocated.
And then the kid that you went and confronted who called you out on Twitter and you turned up at his house.
Yeah.
You're about 17 years old or something.
University.
Yeah.
Would you just roll up, Reddit, let's put it on his toe, see what he does?
No, so what I've done, I thought, I've been lied about for so long. People are called for my murder. So I thought I'm going to confront him. So with him, I went and knocked at his house because I know he can't justify why I deserve to be killed. And also, and he couldn't.
It looked like Harry Potter.
What did his ass just fall out?
His ass totally fell out. Yeah, his ass totally fell out. And I was nice to him, but I said, you're at university, you're obviously going to have a good career in life, you're working hard. You could throw that all away because what you've done is against the law. I'm not going to prosecute you. Yeah? And like him, so there was a store, I was in Hitchin, town centre. Hitchin's a lovely town near Luton, yeah? And I was out with my wife, my mate and his missus. And I didn't realise, but a bloke called Bob, yeah, Asian lad, had put up a picture of me and it said, anyone who wants to get Tommy Robinson, he's in here, and he'd named where I was. Yeah? So I've just come out at the end of the night and there's 5-6 lads there. I've ended up scrapping them. They've ended up rushing me. I've got a blood clot, so I've got a scar there. I had a blood clot in my head. So the next day, I've gone to hospital. And the next day, I've seen this post. And all the landlords in the town, they're all in one group from all the pubs and venues. And they're all sat, and he'd gone in and said Tommy Robinson was in town causing trouble last night, yeah? And this racist shouldn't be tolerated out of town. And I saw all these pubs. So that's where I used to go. From Luton, I'd go to Hitchin because it was all right, yeah? And they'd all be saying, he's barred from ours, he's barred from ours, he's barred from ours. And I'm thinking, you're not barring me. I ain't done nothing. I got attacked. So I went into the pubs. I said, I was in here last night. I've come in here for years. What do you mean I'm barred? What have I done? So now I tracked down Bob, who lived in Letchworth, yeah? And I went and knocked on Bob's door. And I knocked on his door, and his sister answered. She goes, what are you doing here? I said, tell Bob to come outside. And then she shut the door, and he wouldn't come out. So I put my phone number through the letterbox. And then I've gone home, and I had social media. So I put a picture up of him. I said, problem ain't going away, Bob. Yeah, I'll be back. All right? I got attacked last night. It's on you. And then I get a text message. Said, Tommy, I was drunk. Tongue-in-cheek moment. Yeah? Sorry. I said, not good enough, Bob. Come see me. And they arranged to meet me next day at Cafe Rouge in Hitchin Town Centre. Yeah, so I said, otherwise I'm coming back round your house, yeah? Because you've got me attacked. You need to answer a few questions. So then I've got my mate waiting with the camera in the car, and I've walked into Cafe Rouge, and he sat there with two lads, like big lads. And I said, Bob, come outside. And then the other lad said, we can talk in here. I said, shut the fuck up, man. I said, you see, if I wanted to get him, I'd have got him. I said, he needs to come outside and talk to me, yeah? I said, Bob, come outside on your own, yeah? And he thinks I want to beat him up, but I didn't. He said, come outside on your own, or this ain't ending. Yeah, if you want to end it, come outside. He's like, I don't want to fight. I said, just come outside. So he comes outside, my mate gets out the camera. I said, now tell the camera why I should be beaten up when I'm with my wife on a night out. He's like, I don't know, man. I said, no, tell the camera. come on, you got me beat up. You done this. Yeah. And then you have the audacity to tell people I'm causing trouble. You incited violence the other night, not me. And I said, so speak to the camera. What is it I've said that you disagree with? He goes, you hate all immigrants. I said, never said that. Most of my people I love are immigrants, yeah, or sons of immigrants. Everyone I know, I'm from Luton Town, yeah. Everyone I know, right? So I've never said that. He goes, well, you and all the things he listed. It's not who I am. I said, you don't even know who I am. He was total open border policy, yeah. And in the end, we spoke for about an hour. Stood there speaking, and he was all right, yeah. But I said, Bob, you understand how wrong you are, yeah. And then I shook his hand. I said, "Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to delete the post about you."
Do you want to job him though?
No, I didn't. No. I said, because I'm frustrated, because he's been lied to about who I am, yeah, by the media. So I said, I'm going to delete the post about you, and I'm never going to share this video, right? So I'm not going to share this video. So then I found out who the lads were that jumped me. So I've done that. So then I've gone to the next lad's house. I knocked on his door, and I looked him up. He went to a posh school, right? And the nearest mosque to where he lives is in my town, yeah? He's an exclusively white group of lads everywhere. Every image, his whole school's white, yeah? So I knocked on his door, his mum answers. I said, you need to ring your son. I said, is your son here? She goes, no, he's not here. I said, where is he? She goes, he's back at uni. I said, ring him up, tell him Tom Robinson's here. And then she gets on the phone, Tom Robinson's here, and then he's obviously told her, ring the police, mum, ring the police. She said, I'm ringing the police. I said, do not ring the police, yeah? I'm telling you, I ain't done nothing wrong here. Don't ring the police. I want to speak to your son. And he wouldn't come on the phone. She slams the door. I get home, police ring me. It's Hitchin Police. He said, Tommy, we want to talk to you. He goes, now, we would think you've gone there to intimidate him, yeah? But we met Bob, and Bob doesn't speak highly enough of you, yeah? Bob said, you
So Bob's your fan now. I like that.
Bob,
Yeah, it makes sense.
He
No
said,
joke.
so then I said, you spoke to Bob? I said, hold on a minute. So Bob puts a post up inciting violence against me. When did you speak to Bob? When you know I went to his house. So you went to get Bob because you wanted to get me. But you know he incited violence. Did you do Bob? And he goes, no, we didn't. Do you know what they ended up doing? So then the video, so I'd been attacked in town. Yeah? They've then got the video, and they've got this idiot who's rang them. He's the one, 6 of them, trying to shoe me in. I'm walking on my own. I'm walking with my mate. They charge him, which is what, and then I've looked him up, and he was a nice kid. So
Did you find the university kid though? Did we find him?
yeah, he wouldn't come meet me. So then he gets arrested by the police for attacking me. And I looked him up, what I said to him, because then his mate who he's with, I knew his boss. Yeah, his boss has come to me and said, mate, that's these kids. I know the kids. They're nice kids. I said, well, they tried to jump me. They weren't very good at it because the copper said on the CCTV, they don't really look like they can fight. I said, but they were trying, but they couldn't. Yeah, because they're posh little kids, posh little university kids who are being told that I'm a far right extremist and need to be attacked, and they got all brave after a few drinks. I didn't turn up to the trial, so they walked, yeah, because I didn't want to get him done. I didn't want to ruin his life, yeah. I just wanted him to learn a lesson and do what I've done with Bob to say, you don't even know what you're talking about. You're from an exclusively white group of friends. I'm not. You're calling me the racist. I've had this many times. I was in Luton and I shook some lad said, all right, Tommy, in the pub, and I shook his hand and went to shake his hand, mate's hand. He goes, I'm not shaking your hand. He goes, why? He goes, you're a bigot, you're this. I know what they are. So I said, let me do this. And I rang up. I said, all right, Nasser, how are you, bruv? I said, Nasser, I'm just checking, where's your family from? He goes, Kashmir. I said, whereabouts? And we're going through. I said, he went through where he's from. He's obviously Pakistani, yeah? And then I rang up another one, Imran, who's from Afghanistan. I said, and it was clear we had love with each other. I said, you ring your Muslim mate. And he's standing there like, you ain't got no Muslim mates, have you? You don't know any, do you? I said, yeah, you call me. You're from a different world to where we're from. I talk about problems that I know and see, and yet you privileged little white boy, come down thinking I'm a racist and a bigot. So I've gone through so many of these
I think
situations.
social medias give rise to a lot of people with false confidence, and then when you sort of, like you say there, you put it on the toes.
It gave a rise to
There's no
both.
backing for it. There's no backing from it, is there?
There's no argument. It gave a rise to both, because what I managed to do was bypass the newspapers originally. When I started the journalism, I went to having 60 million video views in a month, 172 million people reading my tweets. We'd got around the media, and someone sitting at home and I'm talking to them. They're then thinking, this ain't the geezer I've been told he is. We're connecting with them, which is why they needed censorship. So it worked both ways.
I feel you need like a long form podcast, me. If you can just speak at length.
Which is when
Because these subjects are so hard for someone like me to comprehend the complexity of it and try and register and understand. But if you had a body of work, I know you do these documentaries, but if it were consistent, you had this body of work which were long form.
Oxford Union. So Oxford Union was the first time I'd had a chance to give my view. So 5 years I've been called racist extremist. And then when I went into Oxford University, everyone hated me. Yeah? And then I kept asking the question is, what would you have done if you was me? And I kept giving examples and then showing what I done. Now that, I got a standing ovation. And every single person afterwards was like, I never knew any of that. Yeah. And then I got invited to York University, Edinburgh University, but every one of them was forced to cancel. Because then they realised, shit, we can't let him talk.
He's going to get a platform.
People are going to listen. People are going to and I've done podcasts. I've done James English podcasts a few times. I've done multiple different long forms.
Saw the podcast with the Mexican guy.
Oh, mate.
Yeah, I watched that. I watched that last night.
We watched this, but I didn't understand what the fuck was going on with that, mate.
Neither did I.
I'd have just fucking walked, or I don't know.
So do you know the lad who done that podcast? What's his name? Callum.
Did he know what the fuck was going on there?
So do you know his story? The podcast host?
No.
So Central Club podcast. I went to meet him 2 years prior. He was a total heroin addict. You got to see the pictures of him. Yeah. I mean, total junkie. Scabs, everything. And when I met him, he's a really nice guy. So he's got a great story. Real positive story. He was in jail, in out of jail. Must have been such a failure. The stress when I spoke to him about what his family must have gone through to have a son who's doing that. And here he is now, and he's totally clean. And I was inspired or thought his story was a great story. So when I done the podcast, and then he asked me to do it, he rang me up and he said, which I say to him on that video, I've only come here for you, yeah, because I know if I go on his podcast, he'll get more views than what he was getting. But I think he should have a platform. He's took, and it's an experimental drug that's given to him, which has got him clean. Yeah, so that experimental drug needs more pushing, because at the minute I've seen it in the jail system, they want everyone hooked. So they're giving them these methadones and these things that keep them hooked. Most people are coming out of jail addicts, whether it be to prescription drugs, where everyone's profiting, rather than getting them clean. So he's clean, and he was a lovely bloke, and I thought I went away thinking he's a really nice lad, yeah. And he's had a terrible ride, and his family must now be so proud. And so when he rang me up, he goes, "I've got this Derek Diablo," and Derek Diablo, I knew Derek Diablo, who he was. He's a American Cuban, went to America, and he was the first American football hooligan. Vice done a documentary on him, and he's doing all this training and fighting, and he's trying to get a football firm in America, and he's trying to start football violence.
Is he Andy?
Well, he portrays himself as Andy.
Did you watch the video?
Yeah, his ass fell straight out.
When you watch the
Why
video,
did Tommy you put it on him?
we end up going at it, but in handbags, in the sense that, so he portrays himself as really hard, yeah, and he's trained in all this martial arts, and so he's come to England, and what he does is he makes videos and he challenges English football hooligans. And I'd seen these and thought they're funny. I thought that's funny. And he's like, Millwall, you're shit, and blah, blah. And he's doing all these videos. So I'd seen some of them, and I hadn't thought. So when he said this American geezer, I said, I know who he is. Will you come on a podcast with him? I said, yeah, Sam, why not? And I said, all right. And again, I only done it because I liked him. So I've drove to Cardiff to do it for him, yeah, because I liked him. So then I've done my research, and I thought, better look up who this geezer is and see what he's about. So I found a video of him calling me out for a fight. So I thought, and he called, so Riaz Khan portrays himself as the old top boy of Leicester City football hooligans. Now, Riaz had commented on something about me before, yeah? So I then went online and called him out. I said, you always portray yourself as some top fucking boy. Come down to Luton, yeah? And I called him out. This when I was young and English Defence League, and I was like, you're a mug and all that. So I called him out. And then I got him on the phone to him. And he was like, oh, Tommy, it's not like that, it's not like that. So and then I spoke to all Leicester's football lads. And they said he weren't one of them. He ain't ever even been in the baby squad, yeah? So I thought, he's been pushed forward as a Muslim face of football hooliganism, yeah, from the 80s, as some top boy. And so when I watched this clown's video, he's talking about me, and he's because I disrespected Riaz Khan. He said, Riaz Khan's top baby squad. So when I sat down with him, I said, I've watched your video. Yeah? Ring Riaz Khan now. Get him on the phone. And he wouldn't. I said, get him on the phone. Or I'll ring him. Give me his number, I'll ring him. Because he ain't never been in no baby squad. Yeah,
What is the baby squad?
Baby squad's Leicester City's football hooligan group.
Oh, right.
Yeah, they're the most famous football. They're a well-respected football hooligan group. So I said, and Riaz Khan's never been in it, yeah? But yet he's portrayed around the country as some top Leicester hooligan because these clowns have all pushed him forward as it. So and then I said, you don't know what you're talking about. You're in America. Yeah, you have no idea what you're talking about. And he said that I'd called a meeting with Riaz Khan for a nice friendly meeting, and I'd turn up and disrespected him, which I hadn't. I'd end up speaking to him on the phone and been all right with him, yeah. But he's the one who's putting shit up about me. So he didn't know what he was talking about, and that started off the conversation. But so I'd watched that and thought, this geezer's a joke. Like, and then I sat down and he'd come in and he was just, I sat there, I took 40 minutes of it. I sat there for 40 minutes.
Were there any dialogue or just him fucking going on
him
around?
Screaming. Mm-hmm. And then so I thought, you're Cuban. So I said, did your family escape communism, Castro? And he said, yeah, my granddad dropped dead. They took all his land. and that's communism. He's gone to America. I said, you're the leader of the Communist Party from Miami. Like, you joined the organisation, the ideology that killed your family. Like, do you even know what you are? Like, you're confused, man. And then in the end, he just kept screaming and shouting. It got into saying, and then I think in the end he jumped up, and then I jump up and he shits himself.
Mm-hmm.
And
He called you out for case. He wanted to get you on.
he started,
Yeah.
not now. I don't want to fight you now. I'll fight you.
Do you think it were a ploy just to get you on something
From
like
him?
Misfits?
Well, it's clicks as well, and you've got to be careful.
Yeah.
People are getting clicks and getting attention, and it feeds their beast.
And that might be what he wanted, but
Yeah.
when it kicked off, and he thought, "Fuck, this ain't." Like
What's the interview guy doing? Is he just thinking, "What?"
He's just jumping in the middle. I'm throwing him out the way. He's like, "Oh!" and then in the end, and then he's laid down, and he's ruined himself because before he come to England, he was this image of a little tough guy.
Yeah.
He's come to England, and when it's kicked off, he's laid on the sofa saying, "Help me." Yeah. He's killed himself, hasn't he?
He did. His belly was out. it was
Dig
on one
into
side.
the
Before you move on from that, do you want to ask one question? He brought up a voice note. Was it Sean?
Sean
who sent
McGovern,
that?
man.
I saw you call him after on camera. What was the situation with you two after that? Then 'Cause it seemed like he disrespected you a little bit.
He had, and I haven't seen him yet.
Okay.
Let's go.
Is it on when you do or?
He
You can't say that.
So I've known Sean's family all my life, and Sean's a nightmare for his family. Yeah, which I think I said cut this out of the podcast, something that had happened recently with him, and they didn't cut it out. So I'm not going to go in and all I say is Sean's a clown, and yeah, Sean's a clown. I like his dad, like his family, but he took the piss.
I don't know how much time we've got left, but dig into the football hooligan side. Is that still very much prevalent in the UK? Is it still as wild as it was? Has it calmed down?
I think it's partly culture. It's like if you've been. I think I found my culture and my identity going to football. So I was brought up in Luton Town, where white English people are a minority, and I sort of had an Irish mum. My dad, who brought me up, is Scottish, and I clung on to the football culture. When I started going football, I thought, this is it. This is.
Well, your dad Glasgow Celtic, were right?
He's from Glasgow, yeah. And I think I found my identity there in a sense, or a brotherhood, a camaraderie, a community, which is partly what we're all searching for. It's partly the same sort of people who were joining the English Defence League were converting to Islam because they're lost. Because we've now got a generation of people who are lost. We don't know who we are. Yeah, we're all searching for something. You've got no Cockney rhyming slang. It's all Jamaican. It's all everything's a mess. So no one really has their sense of identity. And I think that football for me was exciting. It may sound if someone doesn't go football or hasn't been, it probably sounds retarded and stupid. Yeah? A load of men turn up to have a punch up with each other. But I think men have always done that. Mm-hmm. Men always will do that. Men like that. And if you're punching up with someone who wants to punch up, then what's the problem? But in the sense, it gives you a sense of... I would always have fought for my area, my estate growing up. I'd have fought for my school. I'd have fought for my town. I guess it's tribalism. And that's always been in us as men. But then I was young. So when I was young, I was going football. I got a football banning order. I'm on a football banning order now. But remember, I'm 40 years old now. I have 3 kids. So am I going to go have a scrap on football on a Saturday? No, I'm not. Do I view it very differently? Yeah, I do. But not when I was 21. Is
it super organised? Meet this time, this place, you bring your
Yeah, well, nowadays it's most people going who don't want to have a row.
Yeah, you watch it now and there just doesn't seem to be as...
They're going to dress a certain way, drink a certain way, scream a few songs, and they actually want to get wrapped up by the old bill. But not the actual good lads from certain firms. If they want to have a row, you can go football and have a row.
So you're 40 years old now. A question I've got, Josh said a little bit earlier about how do you see us going as a country and as a globe. You've been fighting for this for like 15 years now, and I'm presuming you're going to keep doing it for as long as you can. Do you think that when you look back at all this, when you're 55 years old, you're going to feel like everything you've done has served a purpose, or do you feel like the world's not going to have changed in the way that you thought it would have?
I'll be happy if I'm here when I'm 55 years old. So if I get to 55 years old, when I got to 40, I'm like, when I was 25 and there were terror plots, and I think I struggled because I felt like I was walking around with terminal illness. I thought, I'm fucked. Mm-hmm. I'm in trouble. Yeah. And but I'm here still. And have I had a positive effect? Do I believe history will judge us all. I believe I'll be judged favourably. I believe people will trust me, and they do trust me certainly in my journalism. And I think that come out, have you watched The Phantom Raid Gang? I've done a documentary called The Phantom Raid Gang. Did you see the girl who made up that she was raped by Muslim gangs?
Yeah.
So I went up and was first to realise she's lying. I become friends with the Muslim gentleman who was lied about, and I told his story in a documentary, but the police arrested me again and banned me until the case was over talking about it. I could have alleviated all the pressures and stress that man had 2 years earlier by telling people this ain't true, yeah, or there's certainly doubts about it. So that film come out and it would throw most people, because from the minute I went up there, because I don't hate individual Muslims, yeah. I dislike Islam, I dislike the teachings, but I don't hate individual people. I always say you can dislike an idea as much as you want. If you think Christianity is nonsense, it doesn't mean you hate every person that follows it. Yeah, I think many Muslims are victims of Islam. I think that. So I told that story, and I think that's when Twitter took me back off, because the actual Muslim gentleman, and he says it in a podcast with James English. He said, "No one come to help me, no politician, no media. The only person who come to help me was Tommy Robinson." And he said, so when people say to me he's racist, I say, no, he's not. No, when people say he hates Muslims, he says, no, he's not. And he was going very vocal online. When this film come out, the media still portrayed that I went up there and incited hate against Muslims. And he's there saying, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? That's not what happened. So I think my journalism is trusted. People trust me to tell a story. They trust the work I've done, and they trust and believe what I'm saying. And I think that will only get stronger, and people like us, because people have more distrust now in the media. So will I look back and think it's been a success, or will I don't regret things. I don't know what my children will think, because their lives have been chaotic. I can't speak for what they'll feel. But I think that, which I had this argument so many times with the mother of my kids, to say this ain't about my children. It's not. This is about an entire generation of our kids. We're in trouble. The country's in trouble. What they're pushing, and to be honest, my shift. I used to talk about Islam all the time. I was possibly obsessed at times with trying to stop it, because I saw it as the biggest danger to this nation, and I saw it that we want to protect our kids, and we should do everything as men and parents to protect them, and we're not if we allow this idea to grow. But I don't talk about it much anymore, because I no longer see it as the biggest threat. I see communism and control, and the level of control they want over us, the new 15-minute cities. I see since COVID.
Are they building mega prisons as well? I've been seeing a bit of this in the press.
Who knows what they're doing? Mega prisons for they're
localised around in the UK.
Yeah, which is probably for us.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That's the scary thing.
They think things are all right, they're going to sort them out.
It'll be me after this gets released.
Yeah. We're coming for you lot. We're coming for you lot. Because you hear so many things, and who knows? Because everything they've told us is a lie. So I just say question everything. So if you see a headline about someone, for example, when I went to Barrow to investigate these rape gangs, I've gone up there to end this bloke. I've gone up there, my job, I'm coming up there, I'm going to show who you are. It didn't fit my narrative. But I just want the truth. And essentially I end up feeling so much pain for the bloke. And I walked in his house. As I walked, so I've realised she's lying about certain stuff. So I thought, right, I'm going to approach the Muslims. Yeah? And do you know what? Every one of them welcomed me. And when I was waiting by, apart from his wife, when I was waiting, but he's got ice cream vans, and I was waiting behind his ice cream van, and she's opened her door. She goes, what the fuck are you doing here? Fuck off. I said, I'm here to talk to you. I want to talk to Mo. Yeah? Please put me in contact with him. And he said to his family, he says it on the podcast, when he arranged for me to come around his house, and his kids were saying, how do we treat this man? Yeah. And he said, you treat him with respect. You treat him with, he's a guest in our own. And I went into his house, and as he's opened the door, I'm outside, and he's standing at the door, and I'm walking in. And as I've done that, someone drove past, shouted, you racist at me, yeah? And then a girl shouted, you paedophile at him. And I looked at him, I said, I win that one, bruv, yeah. I win that one. But as I went in, I thought, this man's getting called a paedophile. There's massive doubts over what this girl's done and what she's saying. And then I met his kids, who's had to leave college. And then I thought about my kids. And I thought, my son struggled because I get called a racist. My daughters have struggled. My daughter had a terrible year. Everyone turned on her over Black Lives Matter. I said, this kid, his dad's getting called a paedophile. I can't even start to understand what these lot are going through. And there was doubt on it. So that's why I said, I've got some questions I need to ask you. Yeah, because there were lots of red flags with Mo or people associated to him. And he answered every one of them. Yeah? But no journalists have asked him those questions. So they haven't even gone in on certain things that the public want answering in the town. So I went in, asked him these questions, and then it's a mad story. So as I'm sitting there, I've got a private investigator trying to get hold of the girl's dad, and he rings and says he's in KFC. We've got him. Yeah. So I say sorry to the family. I said I've got to leave. Yeah. Her stepdad's there. I need to question him because they were lying. The family were lying. Yeah. They would have it. There's 2,000 men up there ready to kick off. Muslims businesses are being attacked, and I've rushed up to the car park. I've got out, and I've gone over to him, and he's looking. And I said, "When are you going to tell the truth, mate?" So most people thought I was there to promote the demonstration. So all these people are there, but I knew it was a lie. I knew there was certainly big questions, and no one can face trial by public opinion on such a serious charge because of this girl, because she's a proven liar anyway. Because I knew that she's a proven liar. And then the stepdad, I said, "When are you going to tell the truth, mate? When are you going to tell the public?" And he goes, "Oh, I can't comment." I goes, "Yes, you can. These men are here for an issue to do with your daughter, and you know she's a liar. She's previously made other lies, and I know she's a liar. So when are you going to tell them?" And as I'm doing that, a bloke comes past on his bicycle, and he says, "You racist prick." And this is on the documentary. Watch the Phantom Rate Gang. For some reason, on every documentary, I'm scrapping. he says, "You're a racist prick." And I said, "Okay." I said, "What do you think of the fact?" Because whilst we were told that there's no Barrow grooming gang, there's certainly no question that these men, there's doubts over the allegations against these men. But I also had a Muslim man, a husband and wife, come and met me. Yeah? They were all so sad. They come and met me, and his brother is a groomer. So he said, "Mate, don't listen to the police saying there's no groomers in this town. My brother's one." Yeah, he is. So he sat there. So I said to this long-haired lad who come on his bike, I said, "What do you think of the fact some girls might have been raped in this town?" And he goes, "Yeah, well, it's not everyone's fault," or something like that. And I said, "Look, mate, I'm here to ask him questions. What are you actually here to do?" And he spits in my face. As he spits in my face, I hit him a couple of times, and he's on his arse. And then he's on his arse. I leave. I go back to Mohammed's house, and I go in and I sit down. It's all on the documentary. And I go, "I've just punched some geezer up outside." And he's like, "What?" I said, "Mate, some lad just spat in my face." And then the blue lights will come outside. The blue lights will flash outside. And my mate rings me. He goes, "Police have surrounded the car." And then I'm laughing, yeah. And I look out the window and the police are all there. And my mate's like, "Oh, I'm getting nicked, yeah." And I look at my cameraman and he's been working me for a week. It's his first week at work. And I look at him, I say, "You ever been nicked?" And he's white. He's fucking white. And then Mohammed grabs the camera and Mohammed's laughing. His wife's laughing, his kids are laughing. He grabs the camera and puts it on the cameraman. Because he's there like that.
Who's the cameraman? Just fresh out of
some
university.
Fresh lad who's got a job, who's never been in trouble. So he said, "I've never been arrested in my life." I said, "We're going to get nicked." And he says, "What should I do with the footage?" I said, "Give me the footage." He said, "Shall I delete it?" And I take the memory stick and I plug it. And then...
What do you mean you plug it as in?
It's gone.
Hey, it's disappeared.
It's gone. It's gone. Well, they ain't getting it yet. And then Mo's gone, "Tommy, do you want me to take you out the back?" "Well, I'll get you out the back. I'll get you away." So I think here's a Muslim lad who's a cruise groom in the back, help me escape. I said, "No, they just go to my house." So I end up going out. I end up getting arrested. And when I get arrested, my mate Ches is there as well. My mate Ches was driving the car. So we're in Nick. And I'm looking at the cameraman. He won't talk at all. So when and the cameraman's name was Paul. And Ches has rung the buzzer. He's gone, "Mate, how's Simon?" And the copper's like, "Simon?" And I'm standing there listening to it. He goes, "Yeah, my mate." He said, "What mate, Simon?" He said, "The bald one." He goes, "He said his name was Paul." And then my mate's like, "Ah!" He's just wind up. So they've gone to his cell. And they're like, "What's your name?" And he's like, "Paul." He goes, "No, it's not. It's Simon." Yeah. And he's absolutely shitting himself. But my mate's just on a total wind up. And I'm laughing my head off. I then come out of custody. I then ring my missus. And I ring her. I've been in about 8 hours. And I ring her. I say, "Yeah, you all right?" She's crying her eyes out. So what are you crying for? She goes, "You're getting remanded, Stephen." So what am I getting remanded for? She goes, "GBH Section 18. I said, "GBH Section 18? I slapped him twice." She said, "He's got a broken leg." And she spoke to my solicitor. I said, "Oh, no, yeah." So then they interview me. So when they interview me, they said I used homophobic language towards him. And I'm sitting thinking, "No, I didn't." Yeah. So he's lying. Yeah? And I've got the footage. You ain't got it. Yeah? So I say to the copper, I say, "Okay." And I've already been told they're going to remand me. I said, "Just so you know, officers, before you make a decision on charge, everything that you've said, yeah, he spits in my face, I can prove it. I don't call him the words he said I called him. So it's not, because they nicked me for a hate crime. So I don't call him the words I called him. So there's no hate crime here. And if you remand me, I'll release the footage from jail, mate." They said, "Where's the footage?" I said, "It's in the cloud." Yeah? So I said, "So you make your decision." They bailed me. So I was like, "Thank God for that." So I get home. I get home and I ring my mate. We get the SD card. And the thing is, I know I'm in the SD card. It's in between my cheeks, yeah. And I'm sitting there thinking, at some point, like before the I thought at some point they're going to realise the SD card's not here. They're going to come in and search me. And I'm walking around with my arse cheeks. When I went and walked to interview, I'm texting my arse cheeks. I'm thinking, this is a nightmare, man. But then I finally get out and I'm like, thank God for that. I get home, I get the SD card. My mate comes round, we put it in, it's blank.
Oh.
So when he asked me, shall I delete the footage? I thought, he's deleted the footage. And then again, I and my missus knew by the look on my face, I'm like, I'm on a GBH Section 18 for a homophobic attack. Oh, fuck, man. And Black Lives Matter was hitting off. And this was at this moment. I've then gone mad, yeah. I've watched them smashing up the wall murals, and I made a video saying, you're going to smash up the wall murals? We'll see if you smash them up next Saturday when all the lads are there, yeah? And I've called it on Black Lives Matter. But it was because I was in an emotional mess, yeah. And then that video started going viral. I done it on a Russian app. I didn't expect anyone to see it. I'm cancelled. I'm censored. And then it was the most watched video everywhere. And it went everywhere. And I'm thinking, fuck. But then I got a forensic expert company to retrieve the deleted footage from the SD card. So I got the footage, which proved the boy was perverting the course of justice because he was lying. And I released just because they wanted the footage, but I released a little clip of it and said, "Told you." I just put it on my social media at the time and said, "Told you I had the footage." and then they dropped the case, but they should have charged him because he lied.
I don't know how you just live just with this chaotic craziness.
I know, man.
Fucking
He
hell,
loves it, mate.
When you say you've got PTSD there, do you smoke any weed to calm down? What the fuck's
Nah,
going
don't
on?
smoke weed, no, now I just train and exercise.
That's
and walk.
your outlet,
That's
just to
my
forget
outlet.
about that.
Yeah, and I do, and now I take breaks so I go mad with work and then I disappear. For 2
Sprint,
weeks.
recover, sprint, recover.
And 2 weeks off, 3 weeks off, and I black it out and I don't talk.
You think that's key so you can maintain that pace?
1,000,000%. Because I thought, I look at myself now where I was a mess. I think, Jesus, and then I sit and regret it in the sense, which I keep saying to my son, is if I was fit, healthy, and in shape, physically and mentally, for the last 15 years, yeah, where could I have got?
Yeah.
Because I sort of steamrolled through it as a bit of a bomb waiting to go off. Like just boom through it and just thinking, fuck you lot. And you ain't stopping it. And that's how I went, excuse my language all the time, but that's how I've sort of gone through it. But then I think if I was, because I get to a point where I watch myself, I'm embarrassed when I look back through certain footage because no one else knows it, but I think I was a mess. The state of me there. Look at me there. I was hanging, probably been out for 2 days. And then I'm standing giving interviews and talking and I'm ashamed of it at times.
You hit it just well, just keep that momentum going.
I just carried on, yeah. And possibly needed that as a blowout. Possibly dealt with it. I look at it, I think, what was I doing? It's escapism. I was trying to escape the reality I'm in. So in those minutes or in those hours or in those days when I'm out on the bin or out on the piss, I'm forgetting life. Because I want to hide.
I think it's because all those intense scenarios you put yourself in, that was your escape.
I think I'm just hiding from I'm hiding from what is a difficult position that I don't want to be in and never wanted to be in, but I'm in it. And I'm never getting out of it. So I used to just... I guess when I said I'm looking at it, it's probably a form of self-harm when I'm drinking, in the way I'm drinking.
Just excessive.
Just, yeah, not enjoying. I was. Do you know what I mean? I was. I look back, not now, I'm totally straight and I just keep fit and keep healthy. And wish I'd have done that the whole way through. And that's what I keep saying to my son, my kids and that. It's the answer to everything.
You mentioned something there about being judged. I don't know if that's by your peers. Are you a man of God at all?
I believe there's a higher power superior to us. Do I believe in the church? I'm disgusted with the church. That I was born a Catholic, brought up as a Catholic. My mum's a devout Catholic. The entire Catholicism is a mess and the paedophilic. And I just think we see the church now. I think the church has been infiltrated by people who do not believe in Jesus Christ or God. And it's been infiltrated to use as a power weapon for control and narratives and pushing agendas and Marxism. And essentially, I look at them and think, you don't even believe in it. When you're pushing your LGBTQ plus flags or non-binary flags or transgenderism and the church are part of it. I remember going to the deacon, when the English Defence League started, I went to the Deacon Jerry, his name was, at the church. I said, I'm struggling, man. I said, because I've looked into Islam now. I said, I'm struggling, man. I said, because I see evil and I want to confront it. And he said, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And he made a key point of that. I said, that's your answer. Forgive them. Like the rapes everywhere, terrorism everywhere, jihad everywhere, just forgive them. Because Christianity would not still be here if it was that weak throughout the whole of history. And I remember I went to a meeting with a church pastor, a real famous one, and he said, when Jesus said turn the other cheek, he meant hit me like a man. And I guess it's all down to interpretation. I look at some pastors in America and I listen to them, and I've listened to them and think I'd follow that. That's strong. And that's why so many people follow Islam now. So that's why they're converting so many people, because it's powerful and it's strong and it's not weak and it's not cowardice. And that's what we want as men. So we want something like that. As in the Andrew Tate, the more I was listening to Tate go.
What about Tate's conversion?
The more I was listening to him talk, Islam answers a lot of the solutions. Where we've come to now, what's the alternative? What, transgenderism, pushing this sexualisation on kids? Islam won't, and there was the Muslims held a protest outside schools in Birmingham. Do you remember it? Mm-hmm. That where they were teaching LGBTQ+.
Yeah.
And I remember I looked into it, and I gave a speech on this about 5 years ago or something. I looked into it, and I looked up the Muslim gentleman's address, and I went up and knocked on his door, and he lived in Allen Rock, ghetto, Muslim ghetto. And I knocked on his door, and he's opened the door, and he's gone, again, what are you doing here? Yeah. I said, I come in peace. Yeah. I brought a 75-year-old Christian fellow with me, yeah, from a church, because I want him to know I'm not coming here for anything other than to talk to you. And he invited me in his house. Lovely guy, man. Strange, because you weren't allowed to see his missus, so when she done us dinner, her hand just come around the corner because of her views, and they don't want males looking at them. But he was ever so nice, yeah? And I said, I've read everything you've said. And what the media have done is they portrayed these Muslim parents who were protesting as extremists and homophobes. Now, the head teacher of the school was gay, and I looked through, and there's never been a comment from any of the parents about him being gay. No one cared. Yeah, and I looked at Ellie Browns. Was Ellie Browns? So the woman who's in charge of this education for LGBTQ+, who's pushing it throughout the whole country. I went back through all the stuff she said. And years ago, she'd said, we must smash heteronormativity. So I think, no, this isn't about inclusion, you know, like you're saying. This is about your political idea, your idea to smash men being with women. Because a Muslim child had come home from school, a little boy, and said, I can be a girl. Or a girl had come home and said, I can't remember what it was. So the dad had gone mad, saying, no, you can't. But what they'd managed to do, and like in my court case, they ended up getting high court injunctions preventing the parents from talking about it or protesting outside the school. So when I went to the Muslim lad's house, I said, look, I support you in everything. I'm here as a dad, yeah? And your message has been polluted by the media to say you're an extremist, and you're all extremists. No message is going to send a better... If you want to send a message to them, align with me on this issue, yeah? And let's come out together, because then... No one's going to call you a Muslim extremist, because I wouldn't be standing with you as a Muslim extremist. I'm looking for all this. You're a parent who's concerned, and so am I. And when I left the lad's house and we arranged to talk again, he was a really, really super nice guy. And one dad was being threatened with prison because he took his son out of school. So they're threatening to send his dad to jail, and he said, send me to jail. Yeah? But most of the country ain't getting told the stories here. We're getting told a diluted version by the media. The politicians are coming out and hammering these lads, these parents. They're all saying it's homophobia, it's Islamic extremism. There's nothing they said that was wrong. So I've come out of the bloke's house, and as I've come, we're in Allen Rock, and this lad's got in my car, and some young Muslims have spotted me. I end up getting chased out of there, man. And I looked at this. I goes, "Do you mind if I drive the way I want to drive?" He goes, "You do what you got to do, Tommy. Do what you got to do." And I was like, "Boom, we're going the wrong way around roundabouts, but we're getting chased everywhere." We got out of there, and I spoke to the lad afterwards, and I invited him. I said, I was doing a talk in London. I invited him to come, and I asked him. But so many things get in your way. So we had plans, and the plans were to hit schools, because that's what we need to do. They're bringing in a thing in the national curriculum where you used to have you used to have the right. Where's Warwickshire? Warwickshire were bringing in that they were teaching 6-year-olds to self-pleasure, masturbation. And you say this sounds insane. I'll send you the articles, yeah? I'll send you the news bits, or I'll send you the bits from the school education programme. They were going to start teaching self-love, which is children masturbating. They're going to talk to them. No man or woman is talking to a 6-year-old child about masturbation. Yeah? Mm-hmm. What are you bringing this in for? And it is the agenda of sexualisation of children. And then in Wales, there's a group of mothers who fought against this, and they're still fighting against it, where they were teaching that you can't take your child out of their sex education. And the sex education is now the sexualisation of children. Yeah? It's now the pollution of the minds of the kids. It's confusion of the kids. It's this non-binary, you can be 52 genders. If you want to be a furry and think you're a fox, you can do that. All this crazy stuff, which is damaging children. When you look through the statistics, it's like 50% of the children are on the spectrum. for autism. They're already not well. I think 80% of the parents are suffering from mental health illness. So there's a lot of issues.
Easy influenced.
There's a lot of issues going on here, yeah? And people are financially benefiting, but also the narrative they want, and they're pushing this on the kids. And I've seen it in my own kids' school. Do you know how many non-binary transgender kids there are now in their year? It's insane. It's absolutely insane. They don't know what they are. And rather than trying to help them, they then... The Tavistock clinic was the clinic that dealt with all of this, yeah? A lot of the people who worked there had to resign because the trans lobby was so powerful in attacking them. They didn't even feel they could truthfully say or give their advice, which is that many of the kids aren't well, yeah? They're either self-harming, they've got lots of problems, and this is now a new thing. And if I looked through, I researched everything. The only places that you've got this tranny... non-binary mindset is Brighton and London. Really. That's where all the figures are. So it's cultural. It's being pushed. It's a mindset. And it's being celebrated. And children who want attention are now getting all the attention they want. Yeah? And it's protected now as well. It's you're not even allowed to talk about it. And that's where I'm always shifting. So the Muslim lad, I said, we were planning on working together. But then I have court case, arrest, this. I have so many things. So when I started the Rape of Britain, unfortunately, I thought I can't look at anything else because if I dedicate my time to this, I can't go off record and things. And when with the Rape of Britain, I think there was 30 fire bombings. Muslims come to my mum's house when we started targeting their gangs in Telford. They blew up. They attacked houses. Episode 5. We're near enough finished episode 5. We just need to go find the men. So episode 5, they blew up. They attacked this woman's house. They blew up all the victims' cars, attacking everyone they were. But and it just went chaos. So many plans we make, but then certain things hold you back or change the direction. And that's what happened with the whole sexualisation of kids. And now in the last 2 years, we were talking about this 5 years ago. We were planning it all. So planning to shut down schools and show the public, here's what they're teaching. Because it sounds unbelievable. I went through the books that the BBC showed on the news article about Birmingham, and they glossed over it. Because what they're actually teaching in the school to 6 to 7-year-old kids is not right. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's encouraging it. It's encouraging confusion. It's encouraging LGBT. And then you read all about, I know it sounds mad, about MAP. You know about minor attracted people.
Oh, right, yeah, it's changed, hasn't it?
That's where it's coming. So this whole agenda that they've got...
What, is that also, justifying nonsense a little bit?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, have you not heard the recording?
I'm out at loop, mate. I need to get more involved with learning what's going on.
Calls this guy a paedophile. Teacher corrects him. It's not a paedophile. It's a minor attracted person.
That's the new way they're going to label it.
Kids recorded it in school.
And not just schools. Scottish police started using the term in their seminars and that minor attracted person. So that they've got their own flag now, minor attracted person. So non-binary and transgenderism wasn't heard of. So the LGBT, and I feel quite passionately about this as well because no one cares about being gay or being lesbian. No one hates them for it. Yeah, I don't care. Right. When we care is when you start messing with the kids. Right, and that's not LGBT. They need to separate themselves from the T, the Q, the plus, the map, where it's going now. So that the rainbow was hijacked first of all, but now you've hijacked the fight for gay people to have equal rights and be left alone, which I support. Yeah, I support that, and I wouldn't want any attacks of homophobia at all. But you've gone way past that now. I see Tate say, what gives you? So you're not going to have kids because you two want to be gay. What makes you think you're going to teach my kid? Yeah? Or you're going to pollute my kid's head? Yeah? And then the school want to get involved where they actually take our rights away about it. So I think the whole issue and that minor attracted people, you're going to see it more and more. We're going to go in the years going forward. They are going to sexualise things even more, even with animals and that. They want to mainstream and make us so degenerate as a society and of the sexualisation and the pornographic of everything. And that's where we're at.
I don't know how much truth in this when you see sort of how China are educating the kids
through TikTok.
Is there a fear of, you feel that?
Well, it's been used. So, do you know none of the people who own social media, so the Jack Dorseys of this world who own Twitter, none of their children are allowed these. Yeah? Because the harm that these cause, the need for, I saw it with one of my kids who deleted a picture because it didn't get enough likes. I said, you what? Like the need for the...
It's dopamine, it's pushing, it's notifications.
Yeah, and all it becomes about is that. And what they do is our kids are all doing these sick little dances and sexualised dances. And the Chinese ain't. They're getting taught to win, to fight.
Science
and be great at school and do well. And we're not. It is a weapon. Mm-hmm. I'd say that these ideas are weapons. And they're weapons to destroy society of Western nations.
The job sounds absolutely fucked then, doesn't it? Society-based.
Oh, we're in trouble, man. And I'm
in-
sorry if I've depressed everyone.
Do
'Cause,
you, I need a nap after this.
I know. I know.
Do you? We always mention it on a bit of a lighter topic. We always toy with the idea if the UK is the place to live. It's sounding like it's not.
No, it's not.
Where would you recommend?
I think that we will start looking to countries like Hungary, Poland, and these countries who throughout history have been saviours of the West. So we become Angela Merkel's and our leaders end up. We were meant to be the biggest, most influential and respected leaders, and I think now it's Viktor Orban and it's Polish, and it's the countries that still are willing to stand up for their communities and not tolerate this nonsense. And our countries have all been infected. So where will we go? I think America's in big trouble, man. You look at what they've done in America under Biden.
What do you think? What do you think to Dubai?
What do I think to Dubai? Again, I always would have been against Dubai, yeah. And what? How can Sharia law end up looking all right? Because that's when I watch the World Cup, I end up thinking, good on you, telling them they can't have their rainbow flags and standing by what you stand for. But I always would have been against it. But there's no crime. So when you look at what we've become, when you look at the crime rate in London, when you look at everything, the rapes, the violence, the everything, then I've been to Dubai 3 times. Dubai is, for me, all of these countries that are governed by Sharia law are a total abuse of human rights, yeah? A total abuse. But what's the alternative? And I think that when the situation gets that bad, people will turn for answers. And it's a total destruction of the West and then the rising powers of China and these other countries. And I think the total control that they want. Where would I like to live as well? I don't know, man. I always, originally with Luton, I always said, I'll fight for Luton. I want to fight for Luton. And then when we had the English Defence League and most people stood there and allowed us to come under attack and didn't stand up, I then thought, you can have it. Yeah? It's a shithole. And you've ruined it. And no one in Luton, no Lutonians live in Luton anymore. They've all moved out. So now, like even the King's Coronation, the areas like there's in the village that I lived in, or a little small village, they have Morris dancers on Boxing Day. Yeah? Everything is super. Your identity and your culture is super celebrated, whereas it never was. So there's these little enclaves being built around the towns where everyone's super nationalist and super proud of who they are, and they're allowed to be still there because it's not infected with the problems that were in Luton. But that was like that with Luton. And then I always said with England, with Britain, but I've been forced to leave my own country because I can't. I've had 6 banks, yeah, NatWest, HSBC, Barclays, Met, all of them have closed me down. Yeah. PayPal closed me down.
Do you lose funds though? What happened?
No, they just give you 60 days and then you get your money, yeah? So, and then you're gone, but you can't open a bank account with any of their groups. So then Revolut closed me down, yeah? So I can't get finance, can't get bank, can't get, literally everywhere you turn, MailChimp, PayPal, you just shut down. So they make your ability to live. I remember when it all kicked off when I had to leave the wife, she went to rent a house and they went after her there. They're knocking on the door. Then they went after the next new house where the kids went, even though we're separated, because it's all about putting pressure on you and trying to cause disruption to your family. And they go for every target. But I remember I couldn't get a house. I was trying to, even friends. And they're like, bruv. Because my wife, when she sold a house, she had to take $100,000 hit on it. Because they have to make people aware police have been called to this house. There's dangers to this house. Yeah. So my mates who own a few houses, have got empty houses, said, bruv, it's going to devalue my property if I let you live there.
Crazy.
And I'm like, mate, I've got nowhere to live. So then it's like, so the only thing I can do is leave. And then but then I leave and I have my base and then I can come back and do my work. So I've done more. In the last year, I've put out 4 Rape of Britain episodes. I've put out the Phantom Rape Gang, which is, I've put out 7 or 8 banging documentaries. So the work I've managed to do, I think with everything they've had against us, I think even they scratch their heads and say, yeah, they're still here. and I think that, and we'll see what happens in the coming weeks, whether this film is released and what the fallout of that is. By the time people watch this, I might be sat in a prison cell because a judge has decided that he's annoyed that the people have got to see the truth. But who knows? But I end up then thinking, is it lost? Are we lost? Where do we go? Because it's like you love your country, but it hates you, or everyone hates you.
Seems to be against us right now, doesn't it?
It's against anyone who wants a civilised society. Anyone who wants a family, and a strong family. If you want to succeed and have a strong business, all these things, that's not the future for them. When you look at what they're talking about 80% of the workforce won't work in the future with AI technology. And then look at COVID and everyone just wanted the money, the free money. And then if they're giving you free money and they're on about the money expiring and CBDC and central bank digital currency, all of this, it's like, what's it going to look like for our kids? And are we just going to sit there and let it happen? Because I said to my kids, I said, listen, I'll be proven right in everything I've done, and you know your dad, you'll end up knowing your dad weren't a coward, and didn't sit by, because that's what's happening. It's like we should preserve and protect and make sure that they have the same freedoms and the freedoms. And I remember I looked up the word free for free speech, and it's like without consequence or something like the English dictionary. I think without consequence. Since I started talking, I said all you've done is there is no free speech. We don't have it. And they don't need laws to take it, because they have NGOs, and then you have a society that develops self-censorship anyway. So people think something. I bet you I can look at all the lads here. I bet you've all thought things politically that you wouldn't say on your Facebook. Maybe not you, a couple of times. But I bet
The meme monster.
I bet everything that I put on Facebook, I get a 30-day ban.
But I bet you have to self-censor as
You're
a successful businessman, yeah. You're successful lads. I don't blame you. When I started my activism, as I said, 7 properties between me and my wife, 2 successful businesses. I used a fake name and wore a mask. That's why I'm Tommy Robinson. Yeah? Because I was scared. I was in the same position everyone else is in. I wanted to succeed, do well in life. My passion was making money, be a success for my family. And then I sat there and realised, well, it doesn't matter how much success I've got, because the country's ruined. And what's it going to look like for my kids, like when they get older, and their kids, and thinking beyond just now. And I don't think our governments plan 4 years ahead. Our governments do, and the people that get in there, but the people pulling the strings are planning 100 years ahead. They're way ahead of us. Whatever's happening now, they're planned decades ago.
Listen, Tommy, I've got a question for you before I bring this to a close. Cool. Is there any messages you want to send out? Talk a little bit more about your documentary, and maybe main reason why you've wanted to post it out.
My documentary is that the documentary I made 2 years ago, I'd say is the best work I've done. It's a total expose. I could have posted out over the last 2 years, and I haven't. But now I am aware that I don't know until it comes out myself what's going to be in it. I don't know if the parts that breach injunction and what the judge is going to be upset about. But I do have the evidence that 2 years ago I told him it's in America. That's out of my hands, but I do still believe they'll use it as a reason. And if you care about free, you don't have to, it's far bigger than me. So people who dislike me, this isn't about me. Yeah? It's about the total control and the silencing of anyone who gets in the way of their agenda. And so the people who are against us, you might think you're on the right side of free speech, but the goalposts are shifting every month. Every year, something else is they take something else you can't talk about. As I said, COVID, vaccines, you're not allowed to. You lose your job, you lose your pension, you lose your Facebook. And that continually shifts. It's gone on to transgenderism. What's next? The paedophiles. Yeah, you won't be able to. And that might sound so far-fetched, but it's shifting. And if you celebrated the censorship of anyone, yeah, then it's coming for you. And then you'll only realise in it. Like I said, like J.K. Rowling, she was a hero. Yeah. Now she's a villain. Yeah. What for? For standing up for women.
See, the memes that I post about transgender, I get a lot of support back for that.
Oh, the public agree. I get support everywhere I go, so I always challenge. You go for a walk with me. You go for a walk with me anyway, yeah? I get a hero's reception.
Yeah, when I saw you at
the box,
Telford, everybody gave you love.
Everybody
gave you love.
Everywhere I went.
Which was the opposite of what my perception would have been.
Everywhere I go. So my kids, it's good because my kids only see me getting love. Yeah. So if I take my kids to Wembley, yeah, or I take my kids to a boxing event, every single person doesn't just embrace me; they hug me, and they because they feel like you're talking on behalf of them because they can't talk.
I felt the need with you with that. I rarely keep myself to myself. I rarely go and say hello to someone, but I had to say hello to you. At
the boxing.
Yeah, I had to. I felt the need to do it.
Yeah, and I think, and I get, and so I know, and I get a fulfillment from that because I think, no, you're on the losing side. You act like we're the fringe. We're not the fringe. We're on the right side of history. I'm on the right side of history. So, and we've been proved that time and time again. So I'll sit here and who knows where we're going, but I'm sweating.
It's a bit intense in this cocoon, isn't it?
And it's fucking red hot. But yeah, Tommy, we appreciate you massively for coming down.
Thank
and
you.
Just to let you know, I respect that you stand in for what you believe in, and I hope that everything changes for the better and everything that we spoke about. I really appreciate you coming down, mate. And I hope this can be a recurring thing as well. I'd like to dive a little bit more into what you're about. I know you've just touched the surface there about your life, so thank you.
Anytime, lads. I'm going tomorrow, so I'm back out of the country tomorrow.
Well, maybe we'll fly out and meet you.
Come out.